Chapter 564. President Imo, don't you think you've lost your gentlemanly demeanor? If things get out of hand, it won't do Hyrule any good. Why don't we each take a step back? What step does President and I want me to take? Imo Ting asked. Even President and I knows to care for his woman. So, why are you asking me to take a step back? Do you think my woman deserves to be bullied? Imo Ting's words were neither light nor heavy. In fact, it was impossible to tell what he was feeling. But his questioning tone and unyielding attitude made the woman sense the danger in his words. Does that mean President Imo has no intention of taking a step back? But you need to know that everyone in Beijing is on my side. President Ni's words are a bit ridiculous. The people of Beijing aren't so blind as to support the underworld. Entertainment gossip may be entertainment gossip, but I'm sure they still have a sense of right and wrong, Imo Ting mocked. Let's wait and see. The woman was obviously angered by Imo Ting's retaliation as she angrily hung up the phone after leaving a few words. Of course, Imo Ting was aware that the woman was willing to do anything to achieve her motive. That was the only way to live up to her background. But Imo Ting had never been afraid of anything in his life. If Yang Shi dared to touch a single hair on Tongning's head, he would make her pay 1,000-fold. Even if her plan didn't come to fruition, he couldn't just think about it. Tongning overheard the entire process of Imo Ting shielding Tongning. Even though they had been married for so long, the thing that made her heart race was the fact that Imo Ting's words and actions were always the same. Whatever he said, his actions were always true. He never made empty promises. Plus, the thing that Tongning loved about Imo Ting was that he never worried about offending the entire world. In his world, she was everything. As a result, Tongning's gaze deepened as she casually rubbed her bulging stomach. Yang Shi deserved to die 1,000 deaths this time. After returning to Beijing, Imo Ting appeared at the Hyrule building. However, he did not make an appearance to respond to Yang Shi's incident. He simply pretended nothing had happened. That night, Imo Ting attended an event related to a new film as usual. As he entered the venue, a reporter immediately asked, President Imo, I heard that Yang Shiren is still in your hands and you've placed her under house arrest. Is this true? Imo Ting smiled as he straightened his shirt and replied, the person that started this rumor should go to the police station and the person that believed it should go back to kindergarten. As for the person that dared to ask this question, Imo Ting skipped over the question. It was a very sharp answer. Imo Ting did not leave any face for anyone. In that case, is the rumor that you slapped Yang Shi true? You should ask my hands this question. I think it's more appropriate. Rumor has it that Tongning became enemies with Yang Shi because of the Fei Tian Awards, while you provoked public anger for the sake of your wife. Everyone thinks that the two of you are putting on an act to help each other. What does President Imo think about this rumor? I don't have any opinions, but there are a lot of lawyers' letters. I've memorized everyone's work cards. After speaking in a cold tone, Imo Ting directly entered the ballroom, leaving behind a group of reporters with pale faces. Even though Imo Ting was usually cold, he had never said such harsh words in public. But this time, he responded to every question with a flawless response. Everyone finally understood Imo Ting's temper and how capable he was when he first started working at Hyrule. The reporters did not get any answers. Instead, they returned to their respective agencies with courage. Not long after, Elder Imo gave Imo Ting a phone call. What's wrong with Yang Shi? Do you know? The judges of the Fei Tian Awards are currently planning to remove Ning from the list of nominees. Who will be nominated for the Best Newcomer Award? I can only guess that the person with the highest chance of winning the award is, of course, a certain artist that has been rumored to be kidnapped and threatened. Elder Imo humphed. Grandpa Sheng snorted. Didn't this woman put on so much show just to get here today? That's enough. No matter what, you need to quickly think of a way to salvage this rumor. It's too ugly. Has the judges already made their decision? How could it be fake? Elder Imo was so angry that he hung up the phone. Imo Ting, on the other hand, smiled and put down the phone. The old man sure has a bad temper. It seemed the judges of the Fei Tian Awards were planning to exclude Tongning to the very end. First, it was because Tongning had announced her retreat from the industry. Now, it was because of the news of Yang Shi being suppressed. These two incidents should be enough, right? But now is not the time to strike back. The reaction online was not strong enough. What happened to Yang Shi? At least give us some information. I'm so worried. Has Ting really placed her under house arrest? I heard she's covered in injuries. Looking at the comments online, a rational person finally stepped out and said, "It's good to have a brain. I hope you all have it." Ting would never place anyone under house arrest. After all, he's not from the underworld. But someone is. Hey, please look at the capabilities of the police. Do you think the laws of the country are a joke? If Hai Rue and Ting were to place someone under house arrest, the first person they would see would be me, the police, and not brainless people like you. Of course, as soon as a conspiracy theory was released, everyone couldn't stop. As long as the situation did not go according to the wishes of the netizens, they would assume that the other party was in the wrong and that the other party was fake. Bloody photos began to appear online one after another. There were even corpses with Yang Shi's face on them. Mature and experienced people could tell with one glance that the photos were fake and heavily photoshopped. But there were always people that, even if they knew it was fake, continued to watch the show. "President Mo, when will you start your PR?" Fang Yu asked. "Although you and Tongning are used to this kind of thing, you still need to deal with it in a timely manner." "There's a reason why I haven't dealt with it yet." Ting lifted his head and looked at Fang Yu seriously. Ting lifted his head from his desk and looked at Fang Yu in a serious manner. "The other party is still testing me. They want to know where my bottom line is. Plus, this time, I won't be dealing with one person, one after another, one after another." After hearing Ting's words, Fang Yu was suddenly reminded of the unfortunate women that were about to be exposed. No, the women that asked for it. How did they end up? Hai Rue's press conference will be held the day after tomorrow, but I still have some other arrangements. He was going to deal with the Fei Tian Awards as well. Chapter 565. In this lifetime, Tongning was destined to achieve her greatness in front of everyone, and he was the person that had to achieve her greatness. As for his other plans, Fang Yu looked at Ting with a dark expression. He didn't know why, but back when he was the director of PR, he had fought countless battles for Hai Rue and had never met a worthy opponent. Back then, he was practically invincible, yet he did not feel any excitement or desire to conquer. This urge to win was only triggered by Tongning's appearance, because Tongning's PR was always full of ups and downs, especially when he looked at Ting at this moment. This wise man seemed to be preparing for a huge game of chess. It made him look forward to it. Yang Shi was under Hai Rue's surveillance. Of course, this was only her personal opinion. She especially remembered the look in Ting's eyes when he interrogated her. She couldn't forget the coldness in his dark pupils. So, after returning to China, she stayed in a hotel owned by Hai Rue. She thought she was being monitored and placed under house arrest by Ting. But, in reality, she was just scaring herself. She was constantly thinking of a way to escape from Ting's control. In fact, she constantly plotted and thought of many ways to fight back. In the end, she finally escaped from the third floor of the hotel through a pipe. In reality, there had never been anyone standing guard outside her door. Only when the waiters were delivering food to Yang Shi would they deliberately bring along 2 bodyguards. This made Yang Shi mistakenly believe that these 2 men were watching over her every move and word. This was all a facade created by Ting. So, the first thing Yang Shi did after escaping was give her man a phone call and a phone call to the media. She cried about how she had survived a disaster and accused Hai Rue of being a man-eating organization and Ting of being a demon. "I simply invited Tongning for a small gathering because I was in a foreign country and was a little scared. But Ting used this opportunity to threaten me into withdrawing from the Fei Tian Awards and giving the award to Tongning. Because of this, he even slapped me across the face. In order to satisfy his ambition, he placed me under house arrest. But I refused. He locked me up in a hotel room and assigned 2 bodyguards to watch over me. It wasn't easy for me to escape through the window when they weren't paying attention." In front of the cameras, Yang Shi looked haggard and her eyes were bloodshot. She looked like she had suffered a great deal of mental torture. This was the best way for the audience to sympathize with her. It wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me to escape. She sobbed as she knelt down on the ground and cried. Oh God, if this is the truth, then Hai Rui really has a problem. Mo Ting should explode on the spot for abusing a woman like this. I never expected Hai Rui's internal department to be so rotten. What a surprise. Seeing how badly Shi is being tortured, I don't think it's fake. That night, countless camera flashes were aimed at Shi. From one end of the street to the other, the entire street was filled with black cameras. This was the result of her acting pitiful. After returning home, Shi immediately returned to her usual self. She was completely different from the pitiful woman she had appeared to the reporters. Let's see how Tongning and Mo Ting handle this. Do they really think they are the big shots of the entertainment industry? Humph. Tongning had already seen the news about Shi distorting the truth, but she did not feel too affected by it. She knew Mo Ting had already laid out a path of retaliation in the dark. While the public seemed to have been brainwashed by Shi and believed that Mo Ting had abused female celebrities for the sake of the Fei Tian Awards, and that Hai Rui had broken the rules, Tongning's gaze darkened. She didn't like it when the public gossiped about Mo Ting. No one was allowed to do so. With this thought in mind, Tongning lowered her head and said to the child in her stomach, "Baby, from now on, you need to cherish Daddy's reputation with me." "He definitely will," Mo Ting replied from behind Tongning. Tongning turned around and looked at her husband as he entered the living room. So, she smiled, another mess. Some people can live out their lives in peace, but others have to fight to the end of their lives. But, no matter what kind of life it is, you have me. Do you still need to be afraid? Tongning shook her head. From the day we got married, I have already embarked on my path of fighting. I love glory and I love being respected by others. But, I know, before I can stand at the top, I need to defeat countless enemies. I am not afraid of fighting. It was because of this that Mo Ting felt relieved. It seemed, in this lifetime, no matter how much he doted on Tongning, it was never enough. Because there was someone who could accompany him through the ups and downs of the industry. Tomorrow, I will announce that you are pregnant. I understand, Tongning smiled. The couple had a tacit understanding. Hai Rui is so disgusting. The entertainment industry is doomed. I never thought Mo Ting would do something like this. Trash. If Hai Rui doesn't explain themselves, we will start boycotting them. That couple should have enough acting. Don't act like the entire world is trying to harm her. Shi, you should call the police. I hope the court sentences Mo Ting to life in prison for abusing a woman. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is Hai Rui's usual method of creating hype. It's disgusting. Both husband and wife are disgusting. Faced with so much scolding and over the 6-digit comments, Fong Yu finally felt the time was right. Because, not only the netizens, even the Fei Tian Awards was preparing to remove Tongning from the list. So, he followed Mo Ting's instructions and released a PR statement on behalf of Hai Rui. There will be an important announcement tomorrow. Fifth, Hai Rui is trying to use another artist's news to save Zhao. It's useless. They are simply turning against Hai Rui. So, Fong Yu had no choice but to add another sentence at the bottom of the PR statement. It's about Tongning and the incident in the Netherlands. Of course, those that were used to seeing Tongning's tricks knew that she would eventually fight back and make a comeback. But, even so, the netizens still wanted to know if Tongning had any chance of making a comeback. After all, whenever Tongning was involved, it was always a spectacular show. As soon as Shi saw Hai Rui's PR statement, she immediately sat down on her man's lap. "Master and I, do you think Hai Rui still has a chance of making a comeback?" The man known as Master and I was in his early 40s. As he smoked a cigar lazily, he squinted his eyes and looked at the television. "If you don't deal a heavy blow to Hai Rui this time, the person that will be torturing you will not be Mo Ting, but me. There's also the Fei Tian Awards. If you can't even get your hands on it, I think you are useless. Why should I keep you around? Huh." Chapter 566. After hearing Master Ni's words, Shi's body stiffened. Although she had been by this man's side for the longest time, she couldn't change the fact that she was merely a mistress. Above all, apart from entering the entertainment industry and becoming an artist, she would never be free. She would never be free. After all, she knew too many things, however. If you manage to win against Tongning, it would be an honor for me. When that time comes, you can ask for anything you want. Of course, like before, you can't go overboard. Master and I patted Yang Shi on the cheek and stood up, leaving Yang Shi sitting on the sofa all by herself. Even if she was a beast, she would go crazy under such repeated torture, not to mention that she was a person with a heart and self-respect. So, when faced with Tongning, apart from competing for awards, she also hated the fact that a husband like Immerse existed in this world. How could she have such a strong relationship with Tang Immerse? Why did everyone in this world have to go against her? Most importantly, Tongning had everything, including a child. Immerse had given them the most solid protection, while Yang Shi subconsciously placed her hand on her stomach. This was the place that had once given birth to 3 lives. But, because of his son's feelings, Master and I had forced her to undergo 3 abortions. And now, she had completely lost her right to be a mother. Tongning, you already have everything, why not lose a little? In reality, Yang Shi wasn't the only one that was feeling proud of this incident. Seeing Hai Rui being attacked from all sides and seeing Immerse and Tongning being scolded, Yilan was no less satisfied than Yang Shi. For example, at this moment, Yilan was sitting on the sofa eating nuts on her laptop as she laughed out loud at the sight of Hai Rui being scolded. It had been a long time since she had felt this happy. Su Qingyin walked downstairs dressed in white home clothes. As she saw Yilan laughing, her lips curved upwards. What good news did you come across? Why don't you share it with me? Seeing Su Qingyin sit down opposite her, Yilan's smile immediately disappeared. She glared at her coldly. Tongning is finished. Don't you know? I remember someone confidently saying that Tongning would definitely win an award. But, it seems, she's about to be removed from the Fei Tian Awards. Once Tongning is taken down, the Tang family will no longer have time to care about you. From the looks of it, Elder Immerse has the intention to return to the island. Su Qingyin, your good days are about to come to an end. In that case, let me give you another piece of good news. Grandfather will be leaving tomorrow afternoon. Su Qingyin waved her hand casually. I know you're pretending to be calm. Don't worry, I'll ask your father to go easy on you. After all, if he cripples you, that's too cruel. After speaking, Yilan stood up from the sofa with her laptop in her arms. As she left the living room, she hummed a lively tune. Su Qingyin shook her head as she watched Yilan leave. Tomorrow, when grandfather leaves, the 2 of you will also be kicked out of this house. Elder Su had been standing by the screen at the entrance of the living room the entire time. After Yilan left, he stepped out and scoffed loudly. Grandpa, you're back. Tomorrow, I'll make this bitch and that bastard disappear from my sight. Get out of this house. Yes, Grandpa. Su Qingyin nodded her head. You've suffered all these years. Little brat, although Grandpa won't be by your side from now on, you need to be strong. Elder Su felt extremely guilty towards Su Qingyin. After all, she had endured Father Su's domestic abuse and torture for so many years. After all, she was his granddaughter. Grandpa, don't worry. Su Qingyin nodded her head confidently. This time, she was fighting for her own sake. After enduring so many years of suffering, there was no way she was going to give in. After returning to her room, Su Qingyin suddenly tossed and turned restlessly. Because of everything that was going to happen the next day, she couldn't fall asleep. So, she couldn't help but send Tang Jingxian a message. Are you asleep? No, I'm still in class. I need to quickly take over Sister 3's responsibilities. Tomorrow, can you bring a few people over to help me maintain my image? I'm afraid I'll be in danger on my own. Su Qingyin thought for a moment. Although she was excited, she was actually a little scared. Little monkey, you don't need to be so polite with me. Leave your safety to me tomorrow, Tang Jingxian replied. I can't talk anymore. My phone is going to be confiscated. Girls that sleep early are prettier. Su Qingyin couldn't help but smile at the message. In fact, She was so excited that she hugged her phone and rolled around in bed. In reality, even though Tang Jingxian forced himself to focus on class, he was still worried about Tongning and Su Qingyan, because tomorrow was too important for both of them. Most importantly, Tang Jingxian suddenly realized that he couldn't help but compare Su Qingyan to Song Yanshu. Song Yanshu was once gentle like an angel, but in the end, she still couldn't overcome the demons in her heart. Su Qingyan, on the other hand, was natural and comfortable. Perhaps it was because Su Qingyan had suffered since she was young, so she craved warmth. Although she put on a strong front, everyone knew that she was a paper tiger that could be easily broken. Plus, when they thought about the things that she had done at school, they couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps even Tang Jingxian didn't realize it, but deep down, he was already leaning towards Su Qingyan and was willing to protect her. However, every now and then, a thought would pop up in his mind. This thought even scared himself. The night he spent with Song Yanshu, would his future wife mind? On the surface, the night seemed peaceful, but under the silent night sky, there was a hidden storm. Hai Rui was about to strike back. This was the most popular sentence that night. They were well aware of Hai Rui's PR methods. But because of how exciting Hai Rui's PR had been in the past, they couldn't help but look forward to their flawless PR methods. Of course, in the middle of the night, Lu Che gave Emoting a phone call. I've received news that the Fei Tian Awards has removed the madam's name from the competition. No one could confirm who the winner of the competition would be, but it wasn't hard to find out that someone had been removed from the competition. I understand, Emoting replied calmly. President, can we still salvage the situation? What do you think? Emoting asked before hanging up the phone. He then continued to comfort the woman in his arms. His actions were gentle, like he was taking care of the most precious treasure in the world. If he had already lost the ability to control people's hearts, was he still fit to be her husband? Chapter 567. Plus, to increase the freshness of the press conference, Fang Yu put in a lot of effort. He couldn't let the reporters only see familiar faces from Hai Rui's PR department, so it was time for a new face to appear. So, after hanging up the phone with Emoting, Fang Yu made a phone call to contact this person, even though this person had already disappeared with a certain someone. 9 a.m. the next day, Hai Rui's press conference was about to begin. It was to be held in Hall 5 of the Dense Star Hotel. The entire venue could fit 500 people. If it was a small-time artist, they would simply need to stand on the streets or in front of their office to deal with the reporters. But this was a press conference related to the popular celebrity, Tongning. So, as long as the name Tongning was mentioned, even if it was the slightest, it would attract a lot of attention and discussion. Her image was like a hot commodity. Inside the luxurious banquet hall, the reporters had already arrived. Because of Hai Rui's strict requirements, every reporter had to wear a work badge from their agency and had their identity verified. But even though Hai Rui had a lot of requirements, the reporters still cooperated with them. They knew deep down, it wouldn't be long before they would receive the headlines of the entertainment news. 9:30 a.m. Members of the press conference began to arrive one by one. Hai Rui even streamed the press conference live online so that the news could spread. Of course, at the same time. Whether it was Yang Shi or Yilan, who was watching from the sidelines, they were all prepared to watch Tang Imo and Tongning lose their reputations. In particular, the news that Tongning's name had been removed from the Fei Tian Awards wasn't officially announced to the public yet, but people within the industry had already heard about it. Tongning would soon become a complete joke in the industry. 10 a.m., Hai Rui's press conference officially began. But, to the surprise of all the reporters, the person that entered the banquet hall was not a familiar face from Hai Rui's PR department. Of course, it was not Fang Yu either. Tongning's status determined the number of times Fang Yu would appear. But, this time, the person that stepped out to help Tongning with PR turned out to be the long-missing Han Shiner. Thinking back to her relationship with Bai Chendong, the sound of shutters snapping could be heard throughout the hall. The reporters were like crazy, not letting go of any important details about Han Shiner. Perhaps it was because she was wearing a black business suit, but she looked more mature. However, her eyes were still full of spirit. Han Shiner gracefully walked onto the stage, and adjusted the microphone to a height that suited her. She then turned to the reporters and said in a serious tone, "I once thought I would never stand on this stage again. I thought everyone was well aware of Ning Jie's character." But Han Xiner laughed with a hint of ridicule before continuing. "I'm not sure if everyone still remembers the news last year where Ning Jie was wrongly accused of killing me. At that time, she was wrongly accused because she didn't have much status in the industry. Who would have thought, a year later, everyone would still be confused by a story that distorts the truth? I know that everyone doesn't want to listen to my nonsense. Now, let's get to the main topic." In reality, Bei Chendong was hiding below the stage. If Han Xiner was around, how could he not be there? Of course, if someone recognized him, it wouldn't be hard to notice that his face was smelly the entire time. Although he acknowledged Han Xiner's abilities, standing on the stage like this and looking so beautiful, how many men would have thoughts about his wife? First question. I'm sure everyone is curious as to whether President Mo hit Yang Shi, Han Xiner said with a smile. She then gestured for a waiter to turn on the projector behind her and explain the entire incident. The reporters began to furiously snap away at Han Xiner while waiting for her answer. However, after being trained by Feng Yu, the current Han Xiner had already learned how to keep the audience in suspense. So, after quite some time, Han Xiner finally revealed her answer. That's right. Regarding the face slapping, there was indeed such a thing. Oh God. Hai Rui actually admitted that Mo Ting hit someone? That can't be possible. Hurry up and take photos. This is big news. Is there an internal power struggle within Hai Rui and they are abandoning Mo Ting? Hitting a woman. What a jerk. Han Xiner observed the expressions on the reporters' faces as she glanced at Bei Chendong with a smile. After a while, she continued, "Of course, President Mo did hit someone. This is something that Hai Rui can't deny. But I hope everyone doesn't jump to conclusions. What if you end up slapping yourself in the face?" After speaking, Han Xiner turned around and looked at the screen. Now, let's talk about the entire incident. On the night that she arrived in the Netherlands, one of our artists, Tang Ning, received an envelope asking her to meet at the Queen's Ballroom at 7 p.m. Of course, the envelope did not have a name on it. The sender seemed to be very careful. The projector displayed the letter that Tang Ning received. "What does this prove?" one of the reporters asked. "It doesn't prove anything. But let's move on." As soon as these words left her mouth, the image of the letter on the screen became smaller. But, beside it, an image of a script with Yang Shi's signature appeared. The handwriting on the script was exactly the same. The first thing that Hai Rui wants to clarify is that Yang Shi's claim that Tang Ning threatened her was actually initiated by her. Of course, as the story continues, Tang Ning shows up to the meeting. But, at the same time, she discovers that the entire Queen's Ballroom is filled with bodyguards. So, Yang Shi tells Tang Ning that if she doesn't hand over the Fei Tian Award, she will destroy her reputation. Is that right? This is what Yang Shi said. But what she said was the exact opposite. She said that she was the victim. After hearing this, Han Xiner sneered. Who is the victim here? Can't you just show us the evidence? But, before that, let me be honest. Even if Hai Rui really had a plan, they wouldn't have used Yang Shi in such a blatant manner. Of course, I know that you all want to see the evidence. Miss Yang Shi, I really don't understand how you could say that Tang Ning wanted to hurt you. I'm sorry, Yang Shi. Did you think that just because there were no witnesses, you could lie and twist the truth? You're wrong. At the time, there was a worker repairing the pipes in the bathroom. Although he was Dutch, he has already provided his testimony to the Dutch police. As for the screen, we can see the translated version. Chapter 568. A moment later, the Chinese version of the worker's statement appeared on the projector. Even though it was translated into a language that everyone could understand, when put together, everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could this be considered a statement? Is Hai Rui joking? Are they messing with us? What kind of game is Hai Rui playing? I really can't make heads or tails of it. Stop keeping us in suspense. Hurry and reveal the truth. Of course, this statement is indeed meaningless. Because of the language barrier, he had no idea what happened. Han Shiner shrugged her shoulders and smiled at everyone. Han Shiner shrugged her shoulders and smiled at everyone. So, I was just joking with everyone. Now, let's get down to business. The worker witnessed everything that happened with his own eyes. But, because of the language barrier, he couldn't understand the situation. But, Han Shiner paused for a moment before she continued. Ms. Yang, don't think that by doing this, you can cover up the truth. Although the worker couldn't explain the situation with words, he decisively made a heroic move. He secretly recorded everything with his phone. But, we will reveal this video later. Han Shiner scanned her eyes across the crowd of reporters to pique their curiosity. She then raised her chin confidently and moved on to the next question. Let's first discuss President Mo's actions. What if I said that President Mo's actions were completely reasonable? How can it be reasonable to hit people, and it's a woman? The female reporter with the color of feminism immediately jumped out and snorted. But, what if President Mo had a reason to hit someone? No matter what happens, it cannot be used as a reason to hit someone. Hi Rue, is it because you guys don't have any evidence? Are you deliberately messing with us? Don't you think our time is precious? Some of the reporters couldn't help but mutter amongst themselves. In fact, there were more than one of them. Is Hai Rue's PR only left to beat around the bush? Exactly. Why did they find an irrelevant person to handle their PR? Has Han Shiner taken care of her own business? I bet Bai Chendong hasn't been having a good time lately. Bai Chendong was below the stage. Not only did he overhear people insulting Hai Rue, they even insulted Han Shiner. He couldn't even bear to bully his woman, so how could he allow others to bully her? Thinking of this, Bai Chendong was enraged. Just as he was about to explode, Han Shiner unexpectedly lifted her head and looked at everyone. She then accurately pointed out the reporters' positions and said into the microphone, "Can Ms. Yu in the 4th row, Mr. Zhang in the 6th row, and Ms. Liu in the 7th row please leave the venue?" As soon as Han Shiner said this, everyone was shocked. No one expected Han Shiner to have such courage. If you don't want any news about Hai Rue, you are free to leave. In fact, I can guarantee that from now on, the companies behind you will no longer receive any news about Hai Rue. Most importantly, I'm sorry, but after you leave, I will announce the news about Tongning. I'm afraid you won't be able to get your hands on first-hand information. In just a few short sentences, Han Shiner's voice was powerful and resounding. She brought out the power of Hai Rue and shocked everyone. She didn't lose to Feng Yu in the slightest. At this moment, the reporters that had been asked to leave had no choice but to stand up from their seats with burning faces. They were so desperate to find a hole to hide in. After seeing the reporters leave, the remaining reporters finally stopped looking down on Han Shiner and focused on the press conference. Hai Rue was still Hai Rue. It turned out, even with all the scandals, they were still the big boss of the entertainment industry. Why did President Mo make a move? The reason is simple. After Ms. Yang invited Tongning to the Queen's Hall, she did indeed threaten her to give up on the Fei Tian Awards. Otherwise, she would take an indecent photo of Tongning and destroy her reputation. But Tongning has been through hundreds of battles. Did you think a threat like this would scare her? After speaking, Han Shiner paused for a moment to adjust her emotions before continuing. But Ms. Yang's viciousness isn't because of this. She simply doesn't have any humanity. At that time, Tongning had already agreed to withdraw from the Fei Tian Awards and begged her to let her go. But Ms. Yang said that she wouldn't let her competitor go. Of course, as reporters, you are used to these kinds of threats. But what I want to say is, was Tongning begging Yang Shi to let her go because of the child in her stomach? Child in her stomach. Child in her stomach. Child. What is this all about? Tongning is pregnant? Everyone was in an uproar. That's right. The Tongning that met with Yang Shi, the Tongning that was threatened by Yang Shi, and the Tongning that was slandered by Yang Shi, is now 6 months pregnant. At that time, Tongning begged Ms. Yang to let her child go. But guess what Ms. Yang said? She said she wanted to abort the child. Tongning and Yang Shi have never met before. The only reason they've ever met was because of the Fei Tian Awards. But Yang Shi immediately asked to abort the child in Tongning's stomach. This is a life. What right does she have to do that? If you were in Tongning's shoes, wouldn't you slap Ms. Young across the face? As soon as Han Shiner said this, everyone went into a frenzy. The amount of information Han Shiner had revealed was too much. It was shocking. First, Tongning was pregnant. Then, Yang Shi wanted to abort someone else's child. Wasn't this plot twist a little too big? A moment later, Han Shiner placed Tongning's pregnancy photo on the screen. At this moment, the reporters could no longer control themselves. They all stood up in excitement and began to take pictures of the photo. I don't think Ms. Yang is a human. For the sake of an award, it's fine if you're willing to do anything. But how could you treat a pregnant woman so cruelly? Let me ask everyone, when your wife and child are being tortured like this, wouldn't you want to hit them? Actually, I really want to ask the woman that said hitting someone is wrong. When you're pregnant and about to be forced into an abortion, wouldn't you want your husband to simply reason with them? Hearing Han Shiner's question, the reporters looked at each other in silence. In reality, everyone already had an answer in their hearts. If they were to come across a situation like this, they would probably rush forward and rip Yang Shi to shreds. A slap would simply tickle her. Chapter 569. But it's just a photo of Tongning. What can it prove? It still doesn't prove who the liar is. Plus, Yang Shi was under Hai Rui's control from the beginning. Exactly. Even after returning to China, wasn't Yang Shi also placed under house arrest by Hai Rui? How could this be fake? House arrest. Hearing these two ridiculous words, the smile on Han Shiner's face became even more ridiculing. Hey, fellow reporters, you can eat more, but you can't speak carelessly. I know Ms. Young previously complained to everyone that Hai Rui had placed her under house arrest, but is it enough to just listen to her cry? I can't help but say that Hai Rui has been wronged. But Yang Shi claimed that there were 2 men guarding the door to her room. I think, not only does Ms. Young have a problem with her character, she is also mentally unstable. With the cooperation of the police, we have already obtained surveillance footage of Ms. Young staying at the hotel. Before we release any evidence against the Dutch worker, let's take a look at this video first. After speaking, Han Shiner crossed her arms and turned to look at the screen. As Han Shiner had continuously revealed shocking and exciting news, the reporters quickly raised their cameras, afraid they would miss out on any important details. Her method of dealing with the media was different from how Fong Yu dealt with the public. She had Fong Yu's boldness, but at the same time, she was crafty. A moment later, a video was played on the screen. On the screen was a clear indication of the time it was recorded, and the 2 bodyguards that Yang Shi mentioned appeared. Indeed, there were 2 of them. Like an indestructible wall, everyone could see the surveillance footage that Yang Shi mentioned. There really are people monitoring her. Aren't the bodyguards here? Does Hai Rui still want to deny it? As the reporters watched the video being played non-stop, their expressions were filled with anger. Because in the video, there were indeed 2 mighty bodyguards standing in the hallway of a certain floor of the hotel's guest room. But, just as everyone thought Hai Rui was lying, the door to the room suddenly opened and a middle-aged man wearing sunglasses stepped out. The 2 bodyguards followed behind him as they quickly left the quiet hotel corridor. Not long after, the 3 of them returned to the hotel. However, at this time, the door of the room next door was suddenly pushed open a little. Everyone could clearly see who it was, Yang Shi. I'm sorry to disappoint you. These 2 bodyguards are not there to keep an eye on Yang Shi. They are there to protect the hotel's VIP guests. As soon as Han Shiner finished speaking, everyone came to a realization. It turned out, when Yang Shi mentioned being placed under house arrest, she was merely acting on her own accord. But why didn't anyone suspect Hai Rui of tampering? Because this video was sent by the police, and 2 uniformed policemen were still standing on the side, waiting silently. This was Hai Rui's biggest counterattack against Yang Shi. After all, Master and I was from the underworld and everyone knew that the police would never stand on his or Yang Shi's side. Yet, Mo Ting allowed the police to handle everything according to the law. This was the biggest insult to Master and I. It was a naked humiliation. Because the police were involved, none of the reporters present doubted the authenticity of the video. This Yang Shi thinks too highly of herself. This is all a misunderstanding. These 2 bodyguards were obviously there to protect someone else. Is Yang Shi suffering from paranoia? The truth is right here. Yang Shi's so-called house arrest and humiliation were all fabricated by her own imagination. Or could it be that she simply wanted to frame Tongning, Hai Rue, and President Imo? Han Shiner's voice was steady and penetrating. This made it more convincing. Yang Shi had been the one who directed and acted the entire time. From this, we can see that, for the sake of the Fei Tian Awards, not only did Yang Shi use dirty methods to hurt Tongning, she also twisted the truth and tried to confuse the media to achieve her motive. The reporters couldn't wait to rush onto the stage and film everything that was happening. However, even though Han Shiner explained everything clearly, the entire incident was like a scale that was swaying left and right. Because, from start to finish, the entire incident was still missing a piece of evidence. Just like that, the show had reached its climax. Even though Hai Rue appeared to have the upper hand, they were still not the final winner. Because no one knew if Yang Shi had any other evidence to back up her claims. Evidence. Everyone wanted to see the evidence. Miss Han, stop keeping us in suspense. If you have anything else to show, hurry up and show us. That way, you can get onto the headlines as soon as possible. Don't you still have a video? Hurry up and announce it. The reporters began to discuss anxiously. Han Shiner deliberately remained silent and did not respond to the reporters immediately. Because the key person in this incident had not arrived yet. The reason why Han Shiner made these arrangements was because she wanted the story to be more exciting. But, on the other hand, she wanted to wait for the main character to appear. Of course, there was no way Yang Shi would appear. But Master and I wasn't someone that would sit around and wait for death. Although he didn't care how Yang Shi was treated, he hated how Hai Rue was stepping all over him. So, he sent over lawyers. Lawyers. As soon as 4 young lawyers in suits entered the hall, everyone's attention was placed on them. Miss Han, we are Miss Yang's lawyers. Your words today have caused serious damage to her reputation. We have the right to request that you stop the press conference. Have some shame? The person that was scolded a few days ago wasn't your Miss Yang. Han Shiner laughed. Plus, Miss Yang has been placed under house arrest. Why did she only send a lawyer over instead of calling the police? Miss Yang is a serious person. If Hai Rue directly asked the police to intervene, I'm sure we would be happy to see that. The lawyers were left speechless by Han Shiner's words. Since Miss Yang doesn't have the guts to make an appearance, that's fine. Since the lawyers are here, that's perfect. Everyone in the country, please remember the faces of these lawyers. From now on, if you have any legal questions, don't look for them. Miss Han, I can sue you for damaging someone's reputation. Plus, President Imo of Hai Rue has always been a demon. Miss Yang believes in the law and will never allow evil people to have their way. You speak so confidently. That's great. Since you're all here, let's have a look at the next video. Han Shiner said with a smile. Chapter 570. The video. After many twists and turns, Han Shiner finally got to the most important point, the video of the Dutch employee, the video of the entire incident. However, Yang Shi did not believe that Hai Rue could produce any evidence. Otherwise, Imo Ting would have already released it to the public. How could he have given her the chance to act so presumptuously? Madame Yang has said that she will welcome the release of this video with Hai Rue. She believes that there is truth in this world. After hearing Yang Shi's lawyers say this, not only Han Shiner, but many of the people present also had a look of ridicule on their faces. Truth. As the woman of a big boss, it's best that she doesn't talk to us ordinary people about the truth. Han Shiner's words hit the nail on the head, putting the lawyer on the spot. Seeing that the other party did not respond, Han Shiner continued to smile. Since Madame Yang is so confident, let's see who is the one that is distorting the truth and who is distorting the truth. I hope Madame Yang is willing to pay the price. After speaking, Han Shiner turned around and once again looked at the screen behind her with a determined and sharp gaze. A moment later, a shaky shot appeared on the screen. As the video was taken through the crack of the door, it was possible to see Yang Shi's entire body. However, all they could see was Tongning's bulging stomach. As for the rest of her body, it was not very clear. Even so, everyone could hear Tongning's voice from the beginning of the video. They could hear the argument between Tongning and Yang Shi, as well as Yang Shi ordering her bodyguards to make a move on Tongning's body. Yang Shi ordered the bodyguards to strip Tongning naked and get rid of the child in her stomach. Yang Shi also ordered the bodyguards not to kill her. This was part of the video provided by the Dutch worker. Of course, he had also filmed a few parts, but for Hai Rui, this was already enough. The video stopped at the moment someone knocked on the front door of the Queen's Hall. As Mo Ting had arrived with the police, the workers did not continue filming. But everything was clear. The video clearly recorded who the liar was and who was the one that was humiliating who, and who was the one that was doing things that couldn't be tolerated. The truth was finally revealed. While the reporters were frantically snapping pictures, they were also shocked by the Yang Shi in the video. They never expected that when this woman was vicious, she would be so crazy and so hateful. This Yang Shi is so despicable. After committing such an atrocious act, she still has the nerve to complain. She used the sympathy of the public to achieve her own goals. She's so despicable. Dealing with a pregnant woman like this, aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? She is indeed the woman of a big boss. What she has done is equally inhumane. If I were President Mo, it would be more than a slap. He might even kill her. Well done. How can one slap be enough? Faced with the excitement of the reporters and the anger of the netizens, Han Shiner looked down at Yang Shi's lawyers from the podium and revealed a mocking smile. She then asked in a loud voice, I wonder, is this the so-called truth or justice that you all speak of? The lawyers were rendered speechless. They were completely different from their earlier aggressive demeanor. As a person, not only did she not let a pregnant woman off, she even tried to throw a bucket of dirty water at others. I would like to know, after accepting money from someone like this, can you really sleep at night? Hearing Han Shiner's question, the reporters' faces turned red and they were speechless. After looking at each other, they quickly turned around and left Hai Rui's press conference. Han Shiner did not make things difficult for them because they were merely insignificant characters. So, Han Shiner did something even more unexpected. She directly gave Yang Shi a phone call. Of course, Yang Shi sat at home trembling in fear. She couldn't tell if she was angry or afraid, so she directly hung up on Han Shiner. Han Shiner shrugged her shoulders and gave Yang Shi's agency a phone call. However, as soon as they saw the news, they realized that Yang Shi had lost her value. So, they quickly announced that this was Yang Shi's personal actions and had nothing to do with them. If it was simply an internal struggle within the industry, then it would simply be treated as a joke. There was no real meaning to it. But Tongning was a pregnant woman. Plus, she was 6 months pregnant. This caused the entire incident to escalate to an unimaginable level. Not only did it affect the entertainment industry, it had also become a social phenomenon. Of course, the release of the video was like a slap to the face. The people that had previously insulted Mo Ting and Tongning were now seen as scum and trash. At this time, the climax had officially begun. Han Shiner looked coldly at the press conference. She knew deep down that no matter how angry they were, they would never forget how they had previously insulted and humiliated Tongning and Mo Ting. So, Han Shiner directly said to everyone, there is a reason why this press conference was held in such a manner. Tongning originally didn't want to alarm the media, but she never expected to encounter a vicious woman like Yang Shi. For the sake of her innocence and to protect her child, Tongning had no choice but to go public. But what did she do wrong? No. I should put it this way. You were the ones that called her vicious, but you were also the ones that called her innocent. Brains are a good thing, but can't you all bring it out with you? Hai Rui has been in the entertainment industry for so many years and has never been shaken by anyone. So, who gave you the confidence and courage to insult President Mo and discuss his name so casually? To be honest, this time, Hai Rui will not let Ms. Yang off. Of course, we will not let those that started rumors and caused trouble either. Hai Rui will do everything in our power to eliminate the negative impact this incident has on Hai Rui. Hai Rui will let everyone know what it means to start a rumor and cause trouble, and that they will have to pay the highest price. Of course, Hai Rui will also take this opportunity to clarify the other matters regarding Tongning. Firstly, Regarding Tongning's retreat from the entertainment industry, she may have gotten pregnant because she wanted to keep a low profile, but there is an even bigger secret hidden behind the entire incident. So, we will take this opportunity to clear things up one by one. Following on, Han Shiner wanted to resolve the matter regarding Tongning's exclusion from the Fei Tian Awards. Chapter 571. Imo Ting had played such a big game of chess and waited for such a long time. Just as the Fei Tian Awards was about to give up on Tongning, Imo Ting was fighting for a chance to win the award. The media did not think too deeply about the Fei Tian Awards. They had no idea that the reason why Imo Ting tolerated Tang Xian, Yilan, and Yang Shi was because of this chain of events. If he had pretended to turn a blind eye to the actions of these women before, then today was the time to settle the score. Everyone knows that when Tongning announced her retreat from the industry, it was because she was being slandered by others. She rejected Hollywood and met with an American director. At that time, the matter was blown out of proportion and countless actors and directors stood out to criticize Tongning. At that time, she had already discovered she was pregnant. With no other choice, she made the decision to retreat from the industry indefinitely. Back then, Tongning was only one step away from becoming an international supermodel. But she still chose to retreat from the modeling industry and become a newcomer actress. After 3 films, she had already integrated acting into her life. But at this time, she was ostracized by her peers. She was a pregnant woman. For the sake of her child and her innocence, she had no other choice. But the most disappointing thing is, the people that criticized Tongning back then are still making things difficult for her today. Everyone has seen for themselves how the venomous Yang Shi treated a pregnant woman in such a crazy manner. As for Tongning, when she announced her retreat from the industry, she was in an even more difficult situation than she is now. Her sister, Tang Xian, had a hand in planning the meeting between Tongning and the American director. Her goal was to destroy Tongning's reputation. But this wasn't the first time she tried to frame Tongning. After speaking, Han Shiner placed all the evidence that Liu Che had previously asked her to collect on the big screen. This was the first time a family feud had been exposed in the entertainment industry. Of course, the media did not mind that Hai Rui created even more headlines. Long ago, when Tang Xian was pregnant, to prevent Tongning from giving birth and competing with me for the Tang family's inheritance, she contacted the hospital and told Tongning there was a problem with her uterus. She even bribed the doctors to remove Tongning's uterus. But, thanks to God's blessing, Tongning was lucky enough to escape with her baby because she accompanied a friend for a checkup. Worst of all, Tang Xian even spread the news of Tongning's infertility to everyone. This is the news about Tongning's infertility that you all saw. As her biological sister, Tang Xian has been constantly threatening Tongning's safety. So, in order to prevent Tang Xian from hurting the child in her stomach, Tongning had no choice but to hide the fact that she was pregnant and announce her retirement. It's not that she doesn't want to act or give up her identity as an actress. She's just hurt and wronged. Suppression and torture from my family and peers. Today, a few months later, the situation is still the same and the same method is used. Madame Yang Shi almost made Tongning and her child disappear from the world. But how did she find out about Tongning's pregnancy? Hai Rui has already kept this information under wraps. As Han Shiner spoke, her expression turned even colder and her voice became even more agitated. That's because Tang Xian tried to frame Tongning multiple times but failed. So, she sold this information to actress Yilan for $2 million. As everyone knows, when Tongning and Yilan were nominated for the Fei Tian Awards, there was some friction between them. But Yilan was obviously smarter than Tang Xian, so she sold this information to the famous Yang Shi. That's how today's show ended up happening. The reporters stared blankly at Tongning in shock. Han Shiner had once again dragged 2 people into the picture, Tang Xian and Yilan. Tang Xian was no stranger to everyone. After all, Tang Kor's battles had always been spectacular. But Yilan, although a lot of people knew that she and Tongning had a grudge, no one expected that she was vicious to this extent. Han Shiner had released a lot of evidence, so the reporters needed some time to digest it. Who would have thought, behind Tongning's retreat, There were so many secrets and schemes hidden. In the past, Tongning was already ostracized by her peers. Yet, you're not even going to give her a chance to survive? Faced with these questions, many of the reporters fell silent. If they were in Tongning's shoes, they would have gone crazy a long time ago. Yet, Tongning was determined to protect her child. If Tongning wanted to create hype, she had 1,000 ways to do it. If Tongning wanted to deal with someone, she had 1,000 ways to do it. She wouldn't do it overseas because it's not worth it. So, can you all stop making assumptions about Tongning? Can you all look at Tongning fairly? Whether it's in the past or in the future, she simply wants to be an actress and a loving mother. She has never tried to harm anyone. Today, Hai Rui will be clarifying Tongning's character for the last time. From now on, if anyone dares to spread rumors about Tongning, I'm sorry, Hai Rui will not go easy on them. I hope the media and related parties know what to do next. Tongning was undoubtedly mysterious. To the people of Beijing, she seemed to be the hottest topic in the entertainment industry. But the strangest thing was, she had already announced her retreat a few months ago. It turned out, her story was so bitter, especially when they thought about how she was 6 months pregnant. The mothers knew it best. Pregnancy had always been a tough thing to do. Not to mention, she was constantly being scolded by netizens. It turned out, there were so many misunderstandings about Tongning. Tongning must have been forced into a corner. That's why she asked Hai Rui to step forward and expose her embarrassing family matters to the public. Being an actress and having a pregnancy is a tough thing to do. I've never seen an artist with a more difficult life than Tongning. I just hope the judges of the Fei Tian Awards don't play any tricks. Not only does Tongning deserve sympathy, she also has the ability to receive an award. Han Xiner's matter had already been exposed to the public. Regarding Tongning's retreat from acting, her infertility and all the rumors, Hai Rui had provided a complete explanation today. Of course, the people that were involved in this matter weren't going to have a good time. However, the evil Madame Yang wasn't the first. Don't forget, Elder Su was about to leave the Su household. As for Su Qingyan, it seemed she was ready to kick some people out. Chapter 572. But Yilan never expected that Shi would sell her out so quickly and so thoroughly. But when she thought about it carefully, the two of them didn't have much of a relationship to begin with. Did she really expect the powerful Shi to give her a way out during a time of crisis? After Hai Rui's press conference, Yilan's agency immediately gave her a phone call. Pack your things and leave Beijing immediately. This time, even your agency can't protect you. If you simply wanted to deal with Tongning, that would be easy. But Tongning is pregnant, and you're using this as an excuse to make a big deal out of it. Go overseas and lie low for a while. Once the news has died down, you can find a chance to make a comeback. Go overseas. This meant, by the time she returned, her position would have been completely replaced by another small fry. This was the reality of the entertainment industry. No, I'm not leaving. Yilan replied straightforwardly. My husband still has business dealings with the Tang family. As long as I ask him to make a move, Mo Ting will definitely let me go for Tongning. Are you sure? The woman asked doubtfully. Even if Hai Rui lets you go, do you think public opinion will? Did you think that the mess you've created this time was small? To put it bluntly, if something really happens to Tongning's child, all of you women would be buried with her. But if nothing happened, did that mean she wouldn't be buried with them? This is the current situation. Leave immediately. The other party's tone seemed to be filled with anger and a strong sense of impatience. Yilan put down the phone, unwilling to admit defeat. Just as she was about to give her husband a phone call, Su Qingyan stood in front of her with her arms crossed. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and coldness. Yilan slowly stood up straight and put down the phone in her hand. Even at a time like this, she would not allow Su Qingyan to step all over her head. So, her chin remained raised high as her expression remained cold and unkind. My relationship with Tongning isn't bad. Do you want me to help you plead for her? Su Qingyan asked gently. Su Qingyan, we all know what you are here for. You don't need to pretend. Besides, I don't think your good days will last long. After all, Elder Tang will be leaving today. Grandfather has already left. Su Qingyan agreed. This must be to your liking, right? Yilan glared coldly at Su Qingyan, trying to determine whether she was telling the truth or not. Afterwards, Yilan headed straight for Elder Tang's room. After confirming that the room was clean and his luggage had been taken away, she returned to Su Qingyan and glared at her. Your grandfather is gone? Yet you still dare to be so arrogant in front of me? Because I'm waiting for my father to return, Su Qingyan replied calmly. I think this is the best punishment we can give her. Lu Che didn't need to think too deeply to understand Emoting's intentions. It was because of Master Ni's sensitive identity. If Yangshi was caught, would Master and I sit back and do nothing? What if Yangshi couldn't handle the police's questioning and accidentally revealed his secret? Although Master and I would definitely take precautions, Yangshi was still sleeping by his side. No matter how careful she was, there was still a chance that she would be caught. Plus, he couldn't go against the police in public. So, the only thing he could do was completely abandon Yangshi. As for how he was going to abandon her, it all depended on how ruthless Master and I was. Emoting thought this outcome would be something to look forward to. After all, his woman and child had been plotted against. In that case, he would have to pay them back 1,000,000 times over. Of course, the most important person was Tang Xian. She was currently 7 months pregnant and had failed to escape. But Emoting had no intention of dealing with her right away. He wanted her to see what happened to Yangshi and Yilan first. Sometimes, worry and fear were the cruelest punishments for a person. Chapter 573. Su Household. 5 p.m. in the afternoon. The two women sat in the living room waiting for Father Su to return home. What was about to happen was bound to be another big fight. 10 minutes later, Father Su entered the living room with his briefcase in hand. Perhaps it was because he found out that Elder Su had already left. His footsteps were a lot lighter as he entered the house. As he put down his briefcase, he removed his jacket. He completely ignored his daughter, Su Qingyan, as he hugged Yilan and kissed her like there was no one else around. Don't be like this, Qingyan is still here. Knowing that her husband's heart was on her, Yilan pretended to be shy. But, in reality, she was reminding him that Su Qingyan was right in front of him and that it was time to settle the score. Su Qingyan glared at the couple coldly the entire time. It seemed, Yilan was already used to Yilan's tricks. However, in the past, she had always allowed Yilan to bully and slander her. Father, Su Qingyan called out gently. Of course, there was no emotion in her voice. But Father Su thought that she was begging for mercy, so he wrapped his arm around Yilan's shoulder and sat down on the sofa. He then lifted his chin and looked at Su Qingyan. Now you know how to beg me? Su Qingyan looked at Father Su's lazy expression and did not respond. Qingyan, it's not that I want to scold you, but you need to understand the situation. No matter how much your grandfather dotes on you, he is already over 50 years old. He can't protect you for the rest of your life. So, you should be closer to your father. How could you sow discord between your grandfather and father and cause them to turn against each other? You shouldn't have done this. Unfilial child. You are an evil creature. When are you going to give birth to another son for me? Father Su yelled at Su Qingyan before he turned to look at Yilan. Since you've created a huge commotion today, why don't you take this opportunity to prepare for your pregnancy? Someone needs to inherit my assets. Hearing this, Yilan looked at Su Qingyan in amusement and asked, what about Qingyan? Giving her a place to eat and a place to live, and giving her the status of the big miss of the Su family is already a huge gift. Father Su explained in front of Su Qingyan. But everyone says that a married daughter is like water that has been thrown out. Now that she has colluded with outsiders, who knows how much of the Su family she will take for herself. So, I have decided to kick her out of this family. Get out, just like that, right in front of Su Qingyan. As Su Qingyan's biological father, Father Su treated Su Qingyan like trash. It was as if he could throw her away at any time. After so many years, Su Qingyan had already gotten used to it. But, no matter how many times Father Su said these words again, as a daughter, How many people could truly understand the feeling of being abandoned by her father? Get out. Don't be so cruel. The two of them echoed each other. They both wanted to step on the person before them, inch by inch. When you instigated your grandfather to teach me a lesson, you should have expected this day to come, Father Su said through gritted teeth as he glared at Su Qingyan. Father Su glared at Su Qingyan as he gritted his teeth. I've never been taught a lesson by that old geezer. I am your father. Since you are so capable, then get out of the Su family home right now. You are not allowed to take even a single leaf with you. Su Qingyan glared at Father Su coldly. As she watched his face get uglier and uglier over the years, she felt a little afraid. After all, this had left a shadow in her heart for many years. But everyone around her encouraged her not to be afraid and not to retreat. She did not deserve to be bullied by anyone, even if it was her own father. So, Su Qingyan calmed herself down and sneered. Leave? I'm afraid I don't have such plans for the time being. Besides, Mr. Su, since you are here to get even with me, then let's get even. Father Su never expected that Su Qingyan would dare to refute him. Not only that, there was not a single trace of fear in Su Qingyan's eyes. Do you think you deserve to be a father? No, I should be asking you this. Do you think you are a human? Su Qingyan laughed like she was looking at a naughty dog or a cat that could drive people crazy. All these years, you have been hitting and scolding me at every turn. I have long been cursing your ancestors in my heart. You know this, right? Su Qingyan continued. Sometimes, I even wonder if God is blind and has allowed an animal like you to soar to success. I can't believe I let a bastard like you soar to success. There were countless times when you beat me up, and I silently hoped that you would get into a car accident in the next second. I should have known this a long time ago. What else could I expect from a person like you? You are finally speaking the truth. Seeing that Su Qingyan had never disobeyed him like this and spoke to him in such an arrogant manner, Father Su suddenly felt that Su Qingyan was finally a little interesting. But, so what? I am your father for the rest of my life. You deserve to be bullied and abandoned by me. Actually, there is something that I have been keeping in my heart for a long time. If you still want a son, even if you have the ability, Yulan may not be able to get pregnant. Think about it. She is younger than me. If you can't satisfy her, what would she do? Su Qingyan, shut your mouth. Yilan immediately retorted angrily. I'm sure she understands the importance of giving birth to a son for you better than I do, right? But her stomach has yet to respond. Don't you understand? Otherwise, why would a young and beautiful woman like her be with an old cow like you? Su Qingyan laughed. Hubby, don't believe her words. Yilan felt guilty as she turned around and comforted the man sitting in the back. Yilan, do you dare to swear that Mr. Su is your only man? Yilan wanted to explain, but Father Su looked deeply into her eyes and said to Su Qingyan, hurry and get lost. You have no right to tell me to get lost. Su Qingyan shook her head at Father Su. Did you think that your shares could do anything? Father Su laughed in disdain. If I wanted to, I could give Yilan 10 times the amount. However, at this time, Su Qingyan did not continue her pointless argument. She directly said to the housekeeper, pack your luggage and bring it out. As soon as Father Su heard that Su Qingyan wanted to pack her luggage, he thought that she had compromised and was ready to leave. But Su Qingyan did not move an inch. She simply smiled until the housekeeper brought the luggage over to them. Afterwards, Su Qingyan pointed to the luggage and said to Father Su, I've packed it for you. You can leave now. After hearing Su Qingyan's words, Yilan grabbed the document from Father Su's hands and asked, Is your father okay? Old and senile? Since ancient times, it has always been fathers who dote on their sons. I have never seen a father who skipped over his son to dote on his granddaughter. You've never seen him before? I've never seen a father abuse his own daughter. Didn't the man in front of you do it? Su Qingyan laughed in ridicule. Let's stop wasting each other's time. Housekeeper, throw their things out. Father Su was furious, so he grabbed the document from Su Qingyan and tore it to shreds. This doesn't count. You only tore a copy. The original is still with grandfather. Also, it doesn't matter if you want to admit it or not. This document is recognized by the law. As long as it is recognized by the law, you will have to enforce it. Father Su was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. It was obvious that he was trying his best to hold it in. By the way, there's one more thing I forgot to tell you. Due to the fact that you have caused Su Cor's performance to plummet, I have decided to remove you from your position as CEO. Of course, whether or not you can keep your seat on the board of directors will depend on my mood. That's because Grandpa consolidated his shares, my mother's and my remaining shares, and transferred them all under my name. In other words, I am now the biggest shareholder of Su Cor. As for why you were removed from your position, the reason Yilan framed Tongning and caused a scandal that brought shame to Su Cor was perfect. What do you think? You are the former CEO of Su Cor. Since you like this woman so much, then you can go and destroy yourselves. I would like to see, when you have nothing left, whether this woman will be able to spend the rest of her life protecting a 50-year-old man. Not only had he lost his house, he had also lost his shares. Father Su couldn't accept this reality, so he immediately gave the company a phone call to confirm with his assistant. Xiaoyang, has anything happened over the past 2 days? President Su, because Mrs. Su has created too much news, not only Tangkor, but even Hai Rui has been pressuring the company. The board of directors have all started to impeach you. In order to give everyone an explanation, the chairman has already received a written notice that you have been removed from your position. Everything was fine when I left. I received a letter just as you were leaving. I even called out to you, but you said you had something urgent to deal with at home. As long as it wasn't about murder or arson, I didn't want to disturb you. The assistant replied innocently. As soon as Father Su heard this, he threw down the phone and glared at Su Qingyin with bloodshot eyes. Hubby, what's going on? Seeing Father Su's angry expression, Yilan immediately ran over and grabbed onto his arm. However, Father Su forcefully swatted Yilan's hand away as he pointed to her nose and roared, "Don't touch me, you slut." Yilan was stunned by Father Su's sudden change in attitude. Hubby, it's all because of you. Father Su was so angry that he couldn't care less as he kicked Yilan in the stomach. If you hadn't been so restless and provoked Tongning, I wouldn't have lost my position as CEO. Seeing the scene of the two men biting each other, Su Qingyin finally looked at Yilan and laughed. This is the first time I've seen this. I never thought you'd have such a day. Yilan fell to the ground in pain as tears rolled down her cheeks. How could she withstand Father Su's kick? Hubby, what's wrong with me? How could you treat me like this? I told you a long time ago not to provoke Tongning. Yet, you refuse to believe me. Even if Tongning is easy to bully, President Imo has always been a cold and ruthless person. Did you think he would let you off after scheming against his wife and son? Su Qingyin laughed. Do you believe me? This is just the beginning. After you leave the Su family home and lose your last line of protection, you can try it. How will Hai Rui deal with you? How will President Imo deal with you? Not to mention, Tongning has always been a person that likes to give an eye for an eye. Chapter 575. Yilan lay powerlessly on the ground. Especially after hearing Su Qingyin's words, a chill ran down her spine and spread to her limbs. Think about it carefully. From the moment Tongning announced her comeback until today, from Imo Euro to Yang Shi, Tongning has always won. This is because she loves to fight and is willing to fight. She doesn't want anything that doesn't belong to her. But as long as something crosses her bottom line, then sorry, Tongning has always fought for every inch of her body. Tongning has never lost before. In the past, Yilan was so fearless because she had Father Su's support. After all, for a person to survive in the entertainment industry, they all had a deep connection with the industry. Above all, when it came to awards, the winner always took all. For the sake of glory, even dirtier methods could be found everywhere. In fact, the most important thing was that she never imagined that Father Su would one day lose everything. Thinking about how she no longer had Father Su's protection, how she would have to face Tangkor, Hai Rui, and the ruthless Imo Ting, Yilan felt a sense of panic. In fact, it made her panic. No, hubby, Don't do this to me. Hubby, I know I was wrong. Elon quickly grabbed onto Father Su's pants. But, as someone who had just lost control of Sukor, how could he be in the mood to care about others? So, he simply kicked Elon away and kicked her a few more times in the stomach. Elon cried out in pain as she begged for mercy. Hubby, I won't do it again. I really won't do it again. Seeing this, the housekeeper wanted to step forward and stop them. But Father Su directly warned, if you dare to interfere, I will make you disappear from my sight. In order not to implicate the housekeeper, Su Qingyan said to him, leave first. Her intention was obvious. She wanted to immediately ask Tang Jingxian for help. The housekeeper understood what Su Qingyan meant, so he nodded his head. Yilan did not stop begging for help. Hubby, my stomach hurts, it hurts. But, at this moment, Father Su did not care about anyone else. He directly walked over to Su Qingyan and grabbed onto her shoulders. Immediately give your grandfather a phone call and tell him to return the house and shares to me. Return? These things belong to us in the first place. Why should we return them to you? Su Qingyan asked coldly. Su Jinqing, I think, at a time like this, you should look for your wife. After all, you are a loving couple. She will definitely help you. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of your daily doting? I'm your daughter who has been abused by you for more than 20 years. I've long wanted nothing more than for you to lose everything. So, what's the use of looking for me? Father Su glared at Su Qingyan. The tolerance in his eyes had reached its limit. So, he roared at Su Qingyan, return Sukor to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Did you think that if you asked your grandfather to remove me from my position and take away what belongs to me, you would be able to get rid of me? You must be dreaming. Su Qingyan, let me tell you, I gave birth to you, so I am your father. In this lifetime, you will never be able to get rid of me. Su Qingyan looked into Father Su's eyes. He was filled with anger. Countless times in the past, she had been scared stiff by Father Su's fierce gaze. But now, when she saw his gaze again, she no longer felt afraid. Perhaps it was because she had the ability to resist, or perhaps it was because she no longer feared anything. The brave were invincible. I know you gave birth to me, but when have you ever treated me like a human? Su Qingyan yelled at Father Su. You hit me whenever you want and scold me whenever you want. Do you know how long I've waited for this day? There were countless times in my dreams where I wanted to take you down with me, especially after I got beaten up. But when I woke up, I would harshly ask myself, why did I have to ruin my life for a scum like you? Now that I've obtained Su Enterprise and become the master of this family, I can do whatever I want to you. I can watch as you wag your tail in front of me and beg for mercy. I can trample all of you under my feet and watch as you live the rest of your lives like beggars. I can watch as you suffer all sorts of revenge and humiliation. I can watch as you die of illness like Mom, without a single family member to talk to. Su Jinqing, I once had countless opportunities to tell my grandfather, but because of our blood ties, I held back. But this time, I will no longer show you any mercy. In this world, there are plenty of people that suffer from domestic violence. Yet, some people will never be able to escape from this nightmare, simply because you are our family. But, from now on, I want you to know, not only can I free myself from you, I can also make the rest of your life as miserable as mine. Su Jinqing, you are finished. It's completely over. After saying these words, Su Qingyan seemed to have released all the grievances she had suffered over the years as her eyes turned bloodshot. So, take your beloved wife and disappear from my sight. From now on, everything that belongs to you is mine. After hearing Su Qingyan's words, Su Jinqing was so angry that he could no longer control himself. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Su Qingyan by the neck. However, Su Qingyan did not resist. She simply smiled and reminded Su Jinqing, aren't you going to take a look at your wife? Can't you see the bloodstains beneath your wife's body? From what I see, you must have no idea that Yilan is pregnant. Su Jinqing turned his head and saw Yilan sitting in a pool of blood. A trace of shock flashed across his eyes. But, a moment later, he turned his head back angrily and did not release his grip on Su Qingyan's neck. return Su Kor to me. Otherwise, no one will walk out of this door today. However, Su Qingyin was no longer afraid as she said to Su Zhenqing, return it to you? Do you think that's possible? Then, go ahead and die. If you want to die, then go ahead and die. Why should I die? After speaking, Su Qingyin yelled at the door, Jingxian. Tang Jingxian had been nearby the entire time. So, as soon as the housekeeper left the house, he immediately found Tang Jingxian and found him waiting outside. As soon as he heard Su Qingyin's cry for help, Tang Jingxian led his bodyguards into the house. As soon as he saw Father Su strangling Su Qingyin, he threw a punch at him. Little monkey, are you okay? Su Qingyin was angry and in pain as she turned around and hugged Tang Jingxian tightly. Jingxian, help me. Leave the rest to me. Hearing this, Su Qingyin's lips curved upwards in ridicule. What a joke. This woman once thought she could take everything from the Su family. But now, in the eyes of others, she is simply a woman that was toyed with by an old man until she had a miscarriage. Tang Jingxian did not reply. At this time, Father Su walked out of the emergency room with blood all over his head as he glared at Su Qingyin. After quite some time, he finally squeezed out a sentence. Did you really have to be so ruthless? When you humiliated me, did you ever consider whether you were ruthless or not? Su Qingyin replied in a choked-up voice. But, between the lines, there was a sense of determination. Su Zhenqing gave Su Qingyin a thumbs up. He did not say another word, nor did he beg for mercy. He simply walked past the two and left the hospital. His back suddenly looked like a 70 to 80-year-old patient. Needless to say, with Su Zhenqing's dismissal and Yilan's miscarriage in the hospital, Su Kor had already made its first move. Everything is now yours. You need to be strong and start afresh. Tang Jingxian patted Su Qingyin on the shoulder. I will prove to everyone that I will do better than Su Zhenqing, Su Qingyin said firmly. From today onwards, I am President Su, the new person in charge of Su Kor. Let's go. I'll take you home, Tang Jingxian said as he shook her body. I have decided to sell the Su household, so Su Zhenqing can never return home. As a result, not only did Su Zhenqing lose the Su household and Su Kor, he also lost the Yilan that he originally wanted to spend some time with. As for Yilan, was there even a need to say anything? She immediately became one of the most searched terms. After all, she had a miscarriage caused by her husband's domestic violence and was even dragged down from her position as the Madam CEO of Su Kor by Su Qingyin. She had gone from a fake phoenix back to her original self. But the strange thing was, no one felt bad for her. After all, she was the one who set Tongning up, but ended up harming others and herself, resulting in her miscarriage. From anyone's point of view, this was karma. Of course, everyone was well aware that the reason why Su Kor cleaned up so quickly was because of Mo Ting. It was all because of the pressure from Hai Rue and Tang Kor. Yilan could have set Tongning up and used other tricks, but she had to set her sights on Tongning and the child in her stomach. At this time, the internet was filled with discussions. Tang Xian betrayed her own sister and sold news of her pregnancy to Yilan for $2 million. At the same time, Yilan wanted to sit back and watch the fire burn. She didn't want to make a move herself, so she passed the news to Yang Shi, who was also competing for the Fei Tian Award. In the end, Yang Shi played with fire and ended up in the police station. Of course, she almost ended up hurting Tongning and the child in her stomach. Out of these three, who do you think is the most hateful? Do you even need to ask? Of course it's Tang Xian. She is her own sister. I think Yilan is the most despicable and shameless. All she knows how to do is play with others, but ended up causing her own miscarriage. How satisfying. I think it's still Yang Shi. You all saw the video. Back then, she ordered her bodyguards to kill Tongning's child. I think, no matter who is more despicable, at least you can see what happens to them. Why don't you think about who they are scheming against? As soon as this comment came out, everyone only sent one emoji, which was a thumbs up high Tongning. They were scheming against Tongning. Everyone knew that Yilan, who suffered a miscarriage due to domestic violence, was just the beginning. At first, I thought the first person to be targeted would be Yang Shi, Who would have thought the least important Yilan would be targeted instead? If Yilan was dealt with so harshly, then Yang Shi and Tang Xian, it seemed everyone was waiting to see what would happen to these two women. After all, they had indeed done something that would anger even the gods. How pitiful could the bad guys get? Chapter 577. When Yilan was admitted to the hospital due to Father Su's violence, the media swarmed around her. Logically speaking, the hospital would have tried to control the situation. But when Yilan was admitted to the hospital and the media surrounded her, the hospital did not do anything and Yilan's management company turned a deaf ear. As a result, Yilan's embarrassing state and ugly state were all exposed to the cameras of the media and the public. Doesn't Yilan look quite beautiful on camera? Yet, she looks like this without makeup. She has been repackaged. Her skin isn't even as good as mine. She's so ugly. Who would want her from now on? I'm the one that can't live on. Yilan was surrounded by the media, but no one dared to step out and speak up for her. Occasionally, one or two nurses couldn't stand it any longer, but they were too weak. So, their screams were quickly drowned out by the crowd. Yilan was so frightened that she hid in all directions. In the end, with the help of the cleaners, she hid in the bathroom and finally escaped. After quite some time, the room finally returned to silence. But, a moment later, the sound of crying could be heard. The crying continued for half an hour before Yilan finally calmed down. At this time, a plump nurse pushed open the bathroom door and helped Yilan up from her half-squatting position. She then said in a gentle voice, "Come out, the reporters have left." "Thank you." Yilan sobbed even harder. After all, someone had extended a helping hand to her during her most difficult time. The wall that she had built up in her heart suddenly collapsed. However, before Yilan could express her gratitude, she froze as soon as she stepped out of the bathroom. The figure by the window of the ward was the nightmare that she couldn't escape from even though she wanted to get rid of it. "Tongning, so it's you." "That's right. Otherwise, why would the media be willing to leave?" Yilan mocked herself. Tongning turned around under the dim lights and looked at Yilan calmly. Her noble aura made Yilan feel inferior from the bottom of her heart. "You can leave now," Tongning said to the head nurse. The head nurse nodded her head, but she was still worried. After all, Imo Ting had instructed her, "Mrs. Imo, I will be outside. If you need anything, just call me." Tongning nodded her head. After the head nurse left the room, she returned to Yilan with a calm expression. "I have no grudge with you. Why would you use Yang Shi to deal with me?" I was just possessed for a moment." It could be said that Yilan and Tongning had never met before. Yet, standing in front of Tongning, Yilan was completely stunned by her calm expression. Because, she knew, the calmer Tongning appeared, the more dangerous she was. No one could see through Tongning at all. She was simply invulnerable. You can be blinded by greed. I know that sometimes people make mistakes for the sake of immediate benefits, but this isn't the first time you've attacked me. If it's just a small fight, I can overlook it. After all, I won't lose anything. But, do you know, I only have two bottom lines in my life, and you've crossed both of them. I was. No matter what your motive is, as long as you make my husband worry and threaten the safety of my child, I will not let a single person off. Yilan, do you understand what I mean? Tongning asked as she glared at Yilan. Yilan was so frightened that she began to stutter. Children are a gift from God. Because you schemed against someone else's child, God took your child away. This is karma. As Tongning spoke, her tone was so calm that even Yilan found it hard to believe. But because of Tongning's teaching tone, Yilan felt a chill down her spine. From now on, you need to do more good deeds. What do you want? Yilan asked as she couldn't take it anymore. However, Tongning did not say a word. After quite some time, she finally replied, I don't want anything. I just came to see you. You've just had a miscarriage. Don't cry for too long. It's bad for your body. After all, after your body recovers, you will still have time to cry. After hearing this, Yilan suddenly lifted her head and looked at Tongning. Her eyes were filled with a pleading yet enduring look. Have a good rest. After speaking, Tongning turned to leave. However, Yilan suddenly knelt down in front of Tongning. Tongning, I know I was wrong. Can you let me go? Tongning did not turn around. To be exact, she couldn't be bothered. She simply replied, I'll accept your apology, but you will still have to suffer what you deserve. Tongning, aren't you afraid that people will call you evil? You still haven't seen the true evil side of me. After speaking, Tongning turned to look at Yilan from the side. However, this was enough to make Yilan tremble in fear. Tongning wasn't as easy to deal with as the others in the industry. If it was someone else, they might be able to escape with a little benefit. But Tongning, no one could control her thoughts. So, it was impossible to predict how she was going to get her revenge. Tongning had always been known to step on people's sore spots. Yilan was no exception. But what was Yilan's sore spot? Everyone had a demon living in their heart. As for Yilan, shocking news. Apart from miscarriage due to domestic violence, Yilan has been sentenced to prison for multiple thefts. Actress's image collapses. Delinquent Yilan's private photos are exposed. She was a thief. When a person's deepest secret was exposed, the humiliation they felt was enough to destroy their will to continue living. Above all, the entire nation now knew that she was a dirty thief that targeted other people's belongings. Isn't this person a little too disgusting? I originally thought she was possessed, but it turns out she's actually a delinquent. How can a thief be an actress? Can someone save me from this? This time, not only the public, even the nurse that previously stood up for Yilan felt like she had been slapped in the face. I thought I was defending justice, but I ended up helping a pile of shit. Of course, after this incident was exposed, Yilan no longer had the courage to stay in the hospital. So, on the second day of the news, she disappeared without a trace. Everyone looked at her with a strange expression. The ridicule they gave her felt like they were cutting into her flesh inch by inch. The reason why Tongning did this was simple. She wanted Yang Shi and Tang Xian to experience the taste of fear. She wasn't afraid that people would call her evil. In reality, if someone crossed her bottom line, she would retaliate with all her might. This was something she had never hidden. So, after this incident, what did the judges of the Fei Tian Awards think? Chapter 578. Apparently, the Fei Tian Awards had already rescinded the punishment for a certain person's name being removed. In fact, it was almost like it had never been mentioned in the first place. After all, everyone was currently standing by Tongning's side, and they all knew the secret behind her retreat. If they still used the same reason to exclude Tongning, it would be too heartless. Although Tongning did retreat for a reason, the incident has blown up too much and has a negative impact. So, regardless of whether we give her the award or not, the Fei Tian Awards will still be doubted. With Yang Shi's name removed, there are only 4 nominees left. It's best if we proceed with caution. In reality, they were simply taking into account the public's reaction. Of course, they wouldn't tolerate someone as vicious as Yang Shi. But an actress like Tongning, who caused a huge commotion, was no longer on their list of favorites. At this time, someone suddenly said, I think you guys have forgotten the true nature of the Fei Tian Awards. Why don't you guys compete based on their acting and instead focus on gossip? Hearing these words, everyone couldn't help but lower their heads, because they all understood that they had placed the wrong emphasis. Acting. As for the remaining 3 nominees, the agencies behind them did not use any complicated underhanded methods. They knew where they stood, and they would rely on their own abilities to win the nomination. Of course, Mo Ting had already done so much for Tongning and cleared so many obstacles. So, everyone assumed that the Best Newcomer Award was already in Tongning's bag. So, the public gradually lost interest in the winner of the Best Newcomer Award. After all, the Best Newcomer Award had already experienced too many twists and turns. But, at this time, Han Shiner once again acted as Hai Rui's spokesperson and accepted an interview. Whether you believe it or not, Hai Rui can't influence the decision of the Fei Tian Awards judges. Moreover, Tongning doesn't have that much influence. She simply stays at home and takes care of her pregnancy. She has never said that the Fei Tian Awards must go to her. Everyone, don't misplace the main point. The winner of this award will definitely rely on their acting, not their popularity or their methods. Don't overestimate Tongning. She believes in the fairness of the Fei Tian Awards and believes that everyone knows who the best person to win the award is. So, she believes that everyone will be satisfied with the Fei Tian Awards. Because she has always remembered that she is still a newcomer, and she wants to be treated fairly. Dear fans of Tongning, if you want Tongning to be at ease, please stop saying things like, this award must be given to her. She simply wants to see her true capabilities. Everyone, please give the Fei Tian Awards a little more mystery. She has not been selected internally. In the end, Han Shiner played a video of Tongning on her phone. The video was only 20 seconds long and Tongning appeared barefaced. Of course, she did not reveal her bulging stomach. My dears, long time no see. First of all, thank you for your concern. The child in my womb is safe and sound. It's almost 7 months old. Secondly, I know that during this period of time, there has been news about me everywhere, so I don't really dare to go out. Lastly, please believe in the judges of the Fei Tian Awards and respect them. I am confident that the Fei Tian Awards will be able to come up with a reasonable reason to convince everyone. The video was very short. It was just a few words. But Tongning actually made an appearance on camera to tell everyone not to be too nosy about this matter. Instead, she told them to look at this prestigious award from a professional perspective and believe in the judges behind it. The most important thing was that everyone had forgotten. When an award was announced, the reason for the award had to be announced. This was the reason why the Fei Tian Awards was known as the most prestigious awards. It allowed people to compare and see their capabilities. Meanwhile, Yang Shi's situation wasn't too good. Her situation wasn't good because she had asked everyone to pass a message to Master and I while she was being held in custody. But not only did she not receive any help from Master and I, she even received a warning from him. If you dare to speak to the police, I will make sure you die without a complete corpse. It wasn't easy for them to catch someone that was close to Master and I, so they naturally couldn't let her go so easily. So, they tried to get some information out of Yang Shi. But Yang Shi had always expressed her loyalty to Master and I. But how could they not trust someone that was already in custody? Master and I had always been a suspicious person. Even after being with her for so many years, she had never been able to find any evidence against him. So, it was easy to imagine how thorough Master and I was. Yang Shi had already witnessed Yilan's fate through the TV in the main hall of the detention center. Mo Ting and Tongning did not hold back at all. They directly destroyed a person's pride and willpower, exposing the ugliest side of her to the public. It was as if they had forced Yilan to strip naked and expose her to the public scrutiny. Of course, Yang Shi was afraid, especially since she was the mastermind behind Tongning's kidnapping. If Yilan ended up like this because of a simple message, then she didn't dare to imagine. Yang Shi had no family and, of course, no friends. She didn't come from a good background and grew up on the streets. If she was abandoned by Master and I, her fate would be even worse than Yilan's. Yilan simply had no place to stand. Meanwhile, Yang Shi had been Master Ni's lover for so many years. There were more than 1 or 2 people that wanted to make a move on her. Yang Shi thought for a moment. In the end, she said to the police with tears in her eyes, I know you want me to give you information that will be beneficial to you. I can promise you that I will be honest with you, but I have one condition. I want to see Tongning. The police did not expect Yang Shi to request a meeting with Tongning. But, in order to find evidence against Master and I, the police agreed, we will help you contact her. But whether or not Tongning wants to see you is not within our jurisdiction. She will definitely see me, Yang Shi said with tears in her eyes. How could she miss the opportunity to see me suffer? Wait for further notice. But, before Yang Shi could see Tongning, Master Ni's lawyer arrived. No, he couldn't even be called a lawyer. Yang Shi knew that this man was Master Ni's most capable assistant. He never dealt with cases, he dealt with human lives. Chapter 579. Yang Shi was so scared that her body trembled, especially when the man was looking at her. That kind of darkness that leaked out from the bones made one's scalp tingle unconsciously. Yang Shi's lips moved a little, but no sound came out. Half an hour later, the police arrived. As they unlocked Yang Shi's door, they said to her, "Yang Shi, you have been bailed out. You can leave now." "You can leave now?" Hearing these words, Yang Shi froze in place, not moving for a long time. "Officer, can I wait until Tongning arrives?" Yang Shi subconsciously asked the police. The young officer glanced at Yang Shi and laughed. "When you were locked up, you wanted to go out. Now that you are about to be released, you don't want to leave. What's wrong with you?" "No. It's just..." Yang Shi stuttered. "Are you going to leave or not?" The officer asked impatiently. Yang Shi looked at the officer hesitantly. After quite some time, just as she was about to say something, Master Ni's assistant, dressed in a suit and carrying a briefcase, approached her and said, "It's time to leave. Master and I is waiting for us." Yang Shi had no choice but to look at the officer for help. But the officer did not understand the meaning behind Yang Shi's gaze. The cold and arrogant assistant allowed Yang Shi to walk in front. He knew how afraid she was of him. But he had been in the underworld for many years, so apart from his mission, there was nothing else on his mind. Yang Shi walked slowly as she kept turning around to look at the officer. It wasn't until they entered the elevator that the cold and arrogant assistant said, "Don't be afraid, it won't hurt too much." Hearing this, Yang Shi felt a chill run down her spine. She subconsciously clasped her hands together. Ding! The elevator arrived. Yang Shi originally wanted to take advantage of the crowd and run away, but the cold and arrogant assistant held her back and comforted, "Be careful, don't run around." Yang Shi closed her eyes in despair. She no longer had any hope for the future. Soon, they were about to leave the police station. At this time, a black Lincoln suddenly stopped in front of Yang Shi. Afterwards, a pregnant Tongning stepped out of the car. Accompanying her was, of course, the regal-like Imo Ting and the steady Lu Che. Yang Shi was already being dragged into the car by the cold assistant. She pretended not to see the assistant as she said to Yang Shi, "Didn't you ask the police to contact me? What? Do you want to see him before you leave?" Yang Shi's heart suddenly lit up with hope. Just as she was about to speak, her assistant held her back and said, "I'm sorry, Miss Tang. Master and I is in a hurry to see Miss Yang, so we'll be leaving first. No matter what I say today, Master and I has to give me some face. After all, there are so many reporters waiting outside. Could it be that Master and I wants me to talk to Miss Yang here?" "I don't have any objections, but I'm afraid." On the surface, Tongning's words didn't seem to have much meaning. But, in reality, she was threatening and warning Master and I. She was determined to get her hands on the person that she wanted. If he didn't, she was going to reveal everything to Yang Shi in front of the media. If that happened, no one knew who she would end up hurting. Master and I wasn't stupid. He knew the consequences. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise as he told his assistant over the phone, "Let them see each other." In the end, they arrived at a nearby cafe. To allow Yang Shi to relax, all the men stopped in their tracks and did not enter the private room, giving Tongning and Yang Shi enough space. However, in the face of this situation, the situation had been completely reversed. As the saying goes, the river flows 30 years east, 30 years west. "I never thought that the person to save my life today would be you," Yang Shi said as she sat down on the sofa. After Yang Shi sat down on the sofa, she had a funny expression on her face. "If you hadn't appeared, I would have been a corpse by now. I would have been found in a few days, or maybe a few years. By then, I would have been nothing more than a pile of dirt. Tongning, I'm completely convinced by you," Yang Shi said in seriousness. "I shouldn't have plotted against you. I overestimated myself. As long as you don't hand me over to Master and I'm willing to do anything for you. You still need to pay me back. I've never been a kind person. I'm sure you know this. But I don't need to take your life," Tongning said calmly. "It's useless. Even if I'm in prison, Master and I will find a way to kill me, let alone let me out. Every second I live right now is worth it," Yang Shi sneered. Yang Shi sneered. Because of my stupidity, he felt a sense of danger. Plus, I've already been to the police station once. There's no way Master and I will trust me again. Master and I is a suspicious person. What if I'm working with the police from the inside? This is the reason why I'm so anxious to win an award. I thought I would have more say in the matter, but it's all in vain. What if I was able to save you? Tongning suddenly asked. Yang Shi did not say a word. She simply looked at Tongning in a daze. After quite some time, she finally let out a laugh. Tongning, you seem to be very good at creating enemies. I remember you subdued a reporter with the surname Lin, didn't you? In that case, do you want to live? Of course I do, Yang Shi replied firmly, but I'm afraid this is just a method of revenge. You're giving me hope, but you're going to make me despair. If I want to deal with someone, I've always done it directly, whether it's in the open or in the dark. I don't like to greet others. That's true. Yang Shi nodded her head. After all, she was left with a worthless life. What else was there for Tongning to play around with? However, she couldn't quite understand Tongning's actions. Logically speaking, Tongning was the one that wanted her dead the most. But you don't need to look at me with a confused expression. What did it feel like to be saved by the enemy? One look at Yang Shi's complex emotions was enough to tell. But every word that came out of Tongning's mouth made one want to trust her. Earlier on, they had been fighting to the death. But in the end, it was all for nothing. Yang Shi couldn't help but feel sad for herself. Of course, she also sighed and accepted her fate. In this lifetime, she was willing to do anything for Tongning, as long as Tongning kept her alive. No one has been able to save anyone from Master Ni's hands. Why do I feel like I can't escape my fate? Yang Shi was indeed domineering, but she was different. She wanted to escape her fate. Of course, Tongning didn't pity her because of this. Some people didn't deserve to die, like Tang Xian and Yilan. But when it came to Yang Shi, Tongning had the urge to keep her alive. She knew that by saving Yang Shi, she would have to accept Yang Shi's soul as well. Chapter 580. I have my ways, Tongning replied calmly. But even though Hai Rui was the ruler of the entertainment industry and Mo Ting was the king of the entertainment industry, Master and I was still involved in the underworld. So, she knew better than anyone how many dirty dealings Master and I had behind his seemingly clean exterior, even though she had no evidence. Otherwise, the police wouldn't have looked so excited when they caught her. Unfortunately, she didn't actually have any evidence against Master and I. She was simply hoping for a slim chance of survival. She didn't know why, but she had a feeling that Tongning, who hated her to the core, wouldn't actually do anything to her. In fact, she might even help her. Of course, Tongning's help wasn't just to save her life. She also wanted Master and I to completely disappear from the streets. Otherwise, according to Master Ni's temper, he would definitely take revenge on both Tongning and Mo Ting. Tongning was a smart person. There was no way she would leave any hidden dangers behind. Compared to Tongning, Tongning was on a completely different level. Even if that's the case, there's still a problem we need to overcome. How are you going to stop that murderer from taking me away? Tongning looked at Yang Shi without saying a word. After quite some time, she finally asked, "Is that the murderer that helped Master and I kill people?" "I don't know. At least, I've dealt with a lot of dirty things in secret." Afterwards, the two women did not say another word. Yang Shi only noticed Tongning pull out her phone a few times. Finally, the people outside couldn't take it anymore as they knocked on the door. "Xiao Shi, Master and I has called to rush you." Yang Shi looked towards the door. However, Tongning held onto her cold hands and shook her head calmly. "Ignore him." At this moment, Yang Shi had no idea what Tongning wanted to do. All she felt was fear. "Xiao Shi, Master and I is already on his way. He said he would personally pick you up." The room fell silent for a moment. Finally, Tongning stood up and opened the door. She then looked at Mo Ting. "Let's go, Xiao Shi. Since Master and I is coming, let's say hi before we leave," Tongning said. "Miss Tang, please don't go overboard." There was a hint of danger in the man's words. "We're not on the same path, so let's not make things difficult for each other. Why do you want to get yourself into trouble for someone who has hurt you?" It's precisely because she hurt me that I want to deal with her personally. After hearing this, the man suddenly felt it was a waste of energy to talk to a woman. He turned to Imo Ting and asked, President Imo, my wife always comes first. Imo Ting sat to one side, emitting a domineering aura that no one could ignore. But the words that came out of his mouth made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Whatever Tongning wanted to do, he would support her unconditionally. In other words, even if Tongning wanted to kill someone, he would be there to bury the corpse. Soon, the cafe became even livelier. With Master Ni's participation, the atmosphere in the cafe became even more tense. It sure is lively today. President Imo, are you interested in Yangshi? Seeing Master and I arrive, Yangshi hid in a corner where no one could see her and revealed a bitter smile. In the end, she couldn't escape. Even Tongning's promise was useless. Master and I, you must be joking. I simply came out for a walk with my wife. Imo Ting smiled. Since that's the case, why did Mrs. Imo detain our Xiaoxi? Master and I asked with a fake smile. I was still bitterly waiting at home. If I had known this would happen, I would have come myself. At this moment, Tongning did not say a word. Mrs. Imo, we should guard our own territories and not invade each other's territory. This is how people should behave. You're so smart. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say, Master and I asked with a smile. Otherwise, whether it's Tangkor or Hai Rue, I have plenty of time to play games with you. I want to see if the entertainment industry is stronger than the thousands of brothers behind me. Is Master and I threatening me? Aren't you supposed to obediently accept my threats? Master and I smiled proudly before he pulled Yangshi behind him. Let's go, baby, let's go home. I have something to say to you. Threat? Tongning chewed on these two words for a moment before laughing. I hate being threatened, but what can you do to me? You might be able to protect Yangshi today, but do you think you can protect her for the next few years? Or even for the rest of her life? Yangshi closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She was currently in the hands of the demon, and she could feel the grip of death around her neck. However, just as Master and I was about to take Yangshi away, the door to the cafe was once again flung open. This time, even Master and I had to bow to the person that walked in. This was the chief of the Beijing police station. Chiefly, why are you here for coffee? The middle-aged man known as Chiefly was tanned and energetic. As soon as he saw Master and I holding onto Yangshi's hand, he immediately replied, I'm here to take my goddaughter home for dinner. Master and I was a little confused by Chiefly's words, so he quickly asked, May I ask who your goddaughter is? Yangshi is my new goddaughter. Didn't you know? Chiefly pulled Yangshi over to his side. My wife loves to watch her act. So, after seeing her at the police station, she thought it was a rare opportunity. So, she kept pestering me to bring her back to meet her, to fulfill her dream of being a superstar. Tongning snatched Yangshi out of her assistant's hands. Master and I snatched Yangshi out of Tongning's hands. Everyone originally thought that Master and I was the winner. But who would have thought? A police chief would appear out of nowhere. Master and I subconsciously glared at Tongning angrily. He never expected Tongning to be so calculative. By making Yangshi the goddaughter of the police chief, if he made a move on her, he would be making a move on a police officer's family. That would be a serious crime. Most importantly, by making Yangshi the goddaughter of the police chief, he was giving her an unbreakable shield. After all, everyone knew about the relationship between them. Actually, it wasn't hard for outsiders to understand. It was easy for them to see through the hidden intentions. The police and the mafia were fighting for a witness. This was where Tongning's intelligence came from. None of the three parties had any evidence against her, and everything she had planned was reasonable. If Master and I really wanted to get rid of Yangshi, he would have to take a risk that was 100 times more dangerous than usual. It was equivalent to putting everything on the line. If he didn't get rid of Yangshi, then he would have no choice but to swallow his anger and pretend that Yangshi never existed. But how could he swallow his anger? Chapter 581. In the end, Master and I had no choice but to reveal a reluctant but respectful smile, You are indeed an actress. Mrs. Mo had already prepared this move from the start, yet I failed to catch you. You are extremely smart. I admit defeat. Master and I is well aware that if Yangshi had any important information, you wouldn't still be standing here, Tongning replied. Master and I smiled as he turned around and said to Mo Ting, President Mo's wife is indeed different. When a pregnant woman has nothing to do, she will always find something to do to pass the time. Mo Ting's voice was filled with love. Mo Ting's tone was doting, but his words had a deeper meaning. It was a warning to Master and I. In that case, I won't disturb your reunion any longer. Master and I looked at Yang Shi with a deeper meaning before he turned and left. Although he didn't want to accept losing to Tongning, as the ruler of an area, he knew what it meant to lose something big for a small gain. After all, he had so many brothers waiting for him to protect them. Take care, Master and I. Tongning smiled. Soon, Master Ni's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. At this time, Yang Shi finally let out a sigh of relief as she knelt down on the ground. Just a moment ago, when she was about to be taken away by Master and I, she really thought she was going to die. Who would have thought? Tongning actually managed to get the police chief to help her. But, just as she was about to stand up and greet the police chief suddenly bowed to Mo Ting. His voice no longer sounded as imposing as before. President Mo, well done. Mo Ting nodded his head. This time, Yang Shi was stunned. In reality, there was no such thing as a police chief. The so-called chiefly was simply an actor that Mo Ting had found to look like the police chief. How could a police chief possibly accept an actor as his goddaughter? Not to mention, this goddaughter had connections with the underworld. Did he still want his position as police chief? Of course, everything that happened today couldn't be brought out of the cafe. Whether it was Master and I or Tongning, they were going to pretend that nothing had happened. After all, Master and I couldn't afford to lose face like this. Was he going to tell the world that he had lost to an actress? So, when Yang Shi finally understood Tongning's psychological tactics, she was once again convinced. The only difference between her and Tongning was Master and I. Not to mention, there was also Mo Ting. Of course, from this moment onwards, Yang Shi had decided to hand over her life to Tongning. She had struggled for her entire life, but she couldn't escape from Master Ni's clutches. Yet, Tongning's little trick had easily allowed her to get what she wanted. Now, how are you going to repay me and the child in my womb? Yang Shi did not say a word. But, looking at Tongning's expression, she felt she was unreachable. On the way home, Mo Ting rubbed Tongning's stomach and asked, Did you let Yang Shi off just like that? Why do you need to be greedy for a moment of pleasure? Ting, do you believe it? Yang Shi will definitely repay me more than what she owes me. In fact, she will repay me when I'm in trouble. Mo Ting lowered his head and placed a kiss on Tongning's forehead. He smiled handsomely because he believed in her every decision. It's time to get even with Tang Xian. At the mention of this person, the couple's eyes lit up with a dark light. This person had challenged their bottom line time and time again. They had reached the point where they could no longer tolerate it. After the Su family's matter was resolved, Su Qingyin continued to work on selling the Su family home. But, because her mother's memories were still there, whenever a buyer approached, she would hesitate. Tang Jingxian couldn't stand it any longer. Why don't you let me handle the house? Su Qingyin thought for a moment and shook her head. No need. I've already chosen a buyer. He is a young and talented neurologist who has just returned from overseas. Coincidentally, the hospital he works at is nearby. Have you already discussed with him? Tang Jingxian asked. Yes, Su Qingyin nodded. Su Qingyin nodded her head. Plus, let me tell you, that man has a great body. If he wasn't a doctor, I would have no problem with him becoming a model. After hearing Su Qingyin's words, Tang Jingxian suddenly felt an indescribable pain in his heart. When Father Su was kicked out of the Su family home, Su Qingyin's hug was unforgettable. But they were still classmates. Did he develop feelings for her too easily? But I heard that this neurologist has a good relationship with your sister. They might even be a couple. You don't like that type? Tang Jingxian took the opportunity to ask. I don't like people that are dull and boring. Their hobby is to cut open people's brains with a knife. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Su Qingyin replied casually. Su Qingyin replied casually. I prefer people that are more cheerful. After all, I was born into a dark environment. In that case, what do you think of me? Tang Jingxian suddenly asked in seriousness as he looked at Su Qingyin's eyes. They seemed to be filled with stars. Su Qingyin froze as her heart raced. After quite some time, she finally mumbled, although our relationship isn't clear to the public, don't we all want to be united and help each other? Don't we feel a little awkward between classmates? After hearing this, Tang Jingxian replied in a serious tone, do you feel awkward around me and not comfortable? I haven't thought that deeply. The two froze without saying another word. After a short moment of silence, Tang Jingxian changed the subject. Have you found a place to stay? Aha, I found the safest apartment in Beijing. Su Qingyin nodded. Don't worry, I won't let myself get hurt again. Tang Jingxian smiled and nodded his head. In order not to repeat the same mistakes from before, Tang Jingxian did not insist on talking to Su Qingyin about his feelings. He hated the way he acted. No matter what he did, he was never mature enough. If there's anything, make sure you tell me, Tang Jingxian said. Okay, stop being so long-winded. Thank you for dinner tonight. I still have some matters to deal with at Su Core, so I'll be leaving first. Su Qingyin returned to her usual lively self. Okay, be careful on the road. Tang Jingxian did not suggest taking Su Qingyin home. The most important thing right now was to understand the meaning of restraint. Su Qingyin smiled as she turned around and left the hotel. Tang Jingxian followed behind her. After seeing her start up her sports car, he boarded his Phantom. However, at this time, a black car sped towards Su Qingyin from not too far away. Without a second thought, Tang Jingxian immediately stopped the car. At this time, Su Qingyin's red sports car had already disappeared into the distance. Chapter 582. The person sitting in the black car was none other than Father Su. His eyes were filled with hatred. Even the windshield could not hide the hatred reflected in his eyes. Let's resolve everything today, Tang Jingxian said to Father Su as they drove to a nearby parking lot. Afterwards, they stood facing each other in the middle of the parking lot. Stop hurting Qingyin. You've already tortured her long enough. I gave birth to her, so I am her father. Yet, that unfilial child of mine treats me like this. I can't accept it. You're so stubborn. What do you want? Tang Jingxian unconsciously raised his voice. What can you get out of this endless entanglement? Let me give you a piece of advice. Before things get out of hand, you should stop doing meaningless things while you still have the chance. After all, the current Su Qingyin is not someone you can afford to offend. After speaking, Tang Jingxian turned to leave. But, at this time, Father Su suddenly pulled out a dagger from behind his waist and stabbed it towards Tang Jingxuan's back. Tang Jingxian immediately noticed something was wrong. But, by the time he turned around, it was already too late for him to dodge. Although the dagger did not hit a vital point, it pierced the left side of his abdomen. Blood quickly seeped through his clothes and, of course, scared Su Zhenqing away. Su Zhenqing's expression changed as his body trembled. After a few seconds of shock, he regained his senses and scrambled back into his car. But, just as he was about to leave the parking lot, he once again knocked into Tang Jingxuan's right side. Tang Jingxian fell to the ground and rolled quite a distance. After quite some time, he used the last bit of his strength to pull out his phone and give Tongning a phone call. Sister 3, save me. Tongning and Emoting originally wanted to deal with Tang Xian. But, after receiving Tang Jingxuan's phone call, they immediately asked Lu Che to turn around. Emoting even used a lot of Hai Rui's resources to find Tang Jingxian. But, by the time they arrived, Tang Jingxian was already unconscious. To avoid being in the headlines, Emoting immediately arranged for a reliable hospital to send Tang Jingxian to the emergency room. As Tongning looked at Tang Jingxuan's bloodied body, she couldn't help but close her eyes. Lu Che, investigate. Lu Che understood what Tongning meant, so he nodded his head. Don't worry, madam. Also, you must seal the news. Don't let anyone know, especially Master and I. Otherwise, if Master and I found out that he could attack the Tang family, He would definitely have some despicable thoughts in his mind. I understand. Lu Che nodded seriously once more. Su Qingyin had no idea that Tang Jingxian was injured. However, as soon as she returned home, she thought back to the words that Tang Jingxian had said to her, and her cheeks subconsciously turned red. In reality, she also recalled the feeling of hugging Tang Jingxian at that time. However, she still felt that she and Tang Jingxian were more than just friends, but not lovers. He won't be angry, right? After thinking about it, Su Qingyin felt that she had gone a little overboard. So, she pulled out her phone and gave Tang Jingxian a phone call. However, Tang Jingxian, who usually answered within 3 seconds, did not respond. Su Qingyin did not give up, so she tried again. However, the result was the same. Is he really angry? Madam, the manager of the shopping mall has checked the surveillance footage and confirmed that the person that injured Jingxian is Su Jinxing, Lu Che said in a heavy tone. From the looks of it, Jingxian was ambushed by Su Jinxing because he was trying to protect Miss Su. Madam, should we tell Miss Su? I'm afraid. You're afraid that Qingyin doesn't know what's good for her? Tongning followed Lu Che's lead and continued. Let's discuss this matter after Jingxian wakes up. Lu Che, call the police. But tell them to keep this matter low-key. Hearing this, Lu Che nodded his head. It seemed Mo Ting was planning to send Su Jinxing to jail for the rest of his life. Since he was a scourge, they had the responsibility to clean him up. So, Su Qingyin had no idea that Tang Jingxian had been injured. In fact, she had no idea that Tang Jingxian had stepped forward to protect her from danger as she left the hotel. However, news of this incident quickly spread within the industry. Especially for people like Long Jia who were good at grasping information, it wasn't difficult for her to find out about a piece of news like this. At this time, there was another person who also heard about Tang Jingshuan's injury. Song Yinshu. For some reason, whenever Song Yinshu heard Tang Jingshuan's name, her heart raced. Especially when she heard that Tang Jingxian was currently in the hospital. To prevent herself from feeling regretful, Song Yinshu secretly went to the hospital without telling anyone. At this time, Tang Jingxian had just stepped off the operating table and was being sent to his room. Mo Ting was worried that Tongning would be tired, so he asked Lu Che to stay by Tang Jingshuan's side until he woke up. Song Yinshu took advantage of Lu Che's absence to push open the door and enter. As soon as she saw the pale-faced man lying in bed, her heart sank. In reality, Tang Jingxian had already woken up. But as soon as he opened his eyes and saw Song Yinshu, he was a little surprised. Why are you here? I heard you were injured, so I came to see you, Song Yinshu said as she sat down beside the bed. Her eyes turned red. If I could, I would really like to go back to the way things used to be. You are still my artist and nothing has changed between us. Hearing this, Tang Jingxian closed his eyes tiredly. If that's all you came to say, then please leave. Jingxian, I think our relationship is already clear enough. You are also someone with a fiancé. Can you control your feelings? Yinshu, when I give my feelings, I give them all. But once I take them back, I'm sorry. To me, you are worse than a stranger. I don't think we should add to each other's burdens. But I got hurt because of Qingyin. I don't want to see her hurt and I don't want to see her sad, Tang Jingxian explained. Tang Jingxian took the initiative to say, there's no difference between your backgrounds, but your fates are completely different. Yinshu, you have someone to love and dote on you, but Qingyin has nothing. Are you that protective of her? At least, when I hate her, she won't pester me endlessly, Tang Jingxian replied coldly. Tang Jingxian said coldly, please close the door when you leave. By the way, I know my sister has been keeping the news of my injury a secret. If this gets out, I'm sorry, but no matter who did it, I'll blame it on you. Does Su Qingyin know how protective you are? Song Yinshu suddenly asked after a moment of silence. Tang Jingxian did not respond. Jingxian, why don't we leave this place and start anew? Sorry, I don't like to play games like pestering, Tang Jingxian replied straightforwardly, disgusted. Chapter 583. But that night, with the mention of that night, Tang Jingxian couldn't help but laugh and ridicule. But Because of this laugh, he pulled at his wound and hissed in pain. At that time, I wanted to take responsibility, yet you pretended like nothing had happened. Why are you suddenly concerned about your virginity now? No matter what, it was my fault. But how do you expect me to take responsibility? Yinshu, on one hand, you have a fiancé on the other. Are you going to drag me down? I can give up on him. But I don't want you anymore. Tang Jingxian quickly replied without a trace of hesitation. Are you sure that Su Qingyan is the person you want? I'm not sure about anyone. It's not like I need love to survive. Tang Jingxian replied coldly before he pointed to the door. After Tang Jingxian said coldly, he pointed at the door of the ward and said, if you're fine, then leave. Don't waste any more time here. Since I've already announced my retreat from the entertainment industry, I will never look back. Give me one more chance. Song Yinshu cried as she stood in front of Tang Jingxian. Her eyes revealed a tearing pain. Perhaps, the Song Yinshu at this moment was the closest to the Song Yinshu that had once been by Tongning's side. I still want to be with you. I no longer love you. What use is my body to you? Would your pride allow you to do that? Tang Jingxian asked straightforwardly. Yinshu, walk out this door and be with your fiancé. Don't let your imagination run wild. If Tang Jingshuan's previous words didn't hurt her, then the word pride was like a sharp sword stabbing deep into her heart. Pride. Of course, she had pride. But, because of this word, she couldn't continue to reach out her hand towards Tang Jingxian. An author once said, if you still have pride when you talk about love, there is only one reason. The person you love the most is yourself. Tang Jingxian had expended a lot of energy, so he took the opportunity to close his eyes and rest. At this time, Song Yinshu looked like she was asking for a snub. Tang Jingxian, remember, you were the one who didn't want me. After speaking, Song Yinshu turned and left the room. As she ran out the door, she bumped into Lu Che. As soon as Lu Che saw Song Yinshu, he immediately looked at Tang Jingxian curiously. However, Tang Jingxian shook his head. It's nothing. This Song Yinshu has changed quite a bit. I can barely recognize her. Lu Che did not ask any further as he sat down by Tang Jingshuan's bedside. I once went through thick and thin with the madam. I originally thought she was a good person, but who would have thought she hid her true nature so well? As the saying goes, time reveals a person's true nature. Did you scare my sister? Tang Jingxian changed the topic at the right time. Of course I'm scared. I'm covered in blood. What about Qingyan? She doesn't know yet. Lu Che sighed. Why are you doing this? Aren't you afraid that Su Qingyan will end up like Song Yinshu? I've known Qingyan since we were young. She's not like that, Tang Jingxian explained in seriousness. Also, don't tell her about this. Okay, the madam will listen to you. She just finished her surgery, so let's get some rest. Lu Che placed Tang Jingshuan's phone on the bedside table, but Tang Jingxian picked it up and turned it on. A moment later, he received a message from Su Qingyan. Don't tell me you're angry? Stingy? How could you treat a classmate like this? Do you still remember the Japanese restaurant outside the school? The old Japanese granny always gives me extra sushi. I still want to go eat. Tang Jingxian held onto his phone and wanted to reply, but after typing a few words, he deleted them one by one. Forget it. Lu Che, can you take me somewhere? In your current state? Lu Che asked suspiciously. I didn't hurt my vital parts, did I? Just let me follow my heart this once. Although Tang Jingshuan's face was pale, his eyes were filled with a certain kind of light and desire. This desire had also appeared in Lu Che's eyes before. So, Lu Che did not stop him. Okay, but if you feel any discomfort, you must tell me. Tang Jingxian nodded his head. Afterwards, under Lu Che's protection, he arrived at their old school and bought a large pile of fresh Japanese food for Su Qingyan. Do you want me to deliver it for you? Tang Jingxian sat in the front passenger seat and closed his eyes as he shook his head. No need. I can go by myself. Just as he had said, this time, he wanted to follow his heart and not regret anything. Although Lu Che was worried about Tang Jingshuan's injuries, he still escorted him to Su Qingyan's new home. At this time, Su Qingyan happened to be leaving the house. As soon as she saw Tang Jingxian in the car, she couldn't help but run over. Why are you here? Didn't you call me a lot? I'm here to apologize. Tang Jingxian smiled. You went to the school entrance? Su Qingyin looked at the things in his hands and happily accepted them. Seeing the smile on Su Qingyin's face, Tang Jingshuan's gloominess finally disappeared as he smiled. Little monkey, from now on, we can still be friends? Of course. At this moment, Su Qingyin's attention was completely focused on the food that Tang Jingxian had brought. Old classmate, that will never change. Tang Jingxian nodded his head and forced out a smile. He then turned around and said to Lu Che, let's go home. You're leaving just like that? Aren't you going to eat with us? No, I still have something to do tonight. You can eat by yourself. After speaking, Tang Jingxian gestured for Lu Che to open the door. Before Su Qingyin could react, he had already left. Seeing this, Lu Che did not ask any questions. He pretended nothing had happened as he safely escorted Tang Jingxian back to the hospital. Meanwhile, Su Qingyin watched as Tang Jingxian left. At this moment, she had no idea what Tang Jingxian was thinking when he went to buy food for her. However, the media were very nosy. Because the paparazzi had captured a photo of the couple together, they posted it online. Originally, this wasn't anything new, but the main point was, someone knew that Tang Jingxian was injured, yet he was able to appear in front of a beautiful woman unscathed. Did this mean that his injury wasn't serious? No one else saw it, so there was no way to verify it. But Song Yinshu had personally witnessed Tang Jingxian lying in bed with a serious injury. But how long had it been since she returned from the hospital? As soon as the photos of the couple were posted online, did Tang Jingxian really like Su Qingyin that much? Did he like her so much that, even though he was injured so badly, he still dragged his weak body to see her? No, Su Qingyin probably had no idea that Tang Jingxian was injured. Because Tang Jingxian would definitely hide the reason behind his injury from her. If Su Qingyin found out, would she do the same for Tang Jingxian? Chapter 584. When Su Qingyin received a phone call from Song Yinshu, she was in the middle of eating oily food. After all, it was a childhood memory and Tang Jingxian had bought it for her, so Su Qingyin treasured it a lot. I am Song Yinshu. Let's meet now. Su Qingyin was a little surprised as she put down her phone suspiciously. She then placed it back to her ear. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't really want to see you. Glory Hotel lobby. I'll give you half an hour. As for Jingxian, if you don't come, you'll regret it, Song Yinshu said as she looked at her watch. After speaking, she hung up the phone. Su Qingyin sighed. Of course, this was because of Song Yinshu's arrogance and rudeness. Was Song Yinshu her little sidekick? He also had to be on call. But even though Su Qingyin felt uncomfortable, as soon as she heard that it was about Tang Jingxian, she had no choice but to put down the things in her hands and change into a new set of clothes before leaving the apartment. 20 minutes later, Su Qingyin entered the hotel under the guidance of a waiter. As soon as she spotted Song Yinshu sitting elegantly by the window sipping on a coffee, she quickly approached her and asked, "What's the matter? Speak." Song Yinshu lifted her head and looked at Su Qingyin. There was a thought-provoking look in her eyes that made Su Qingyin feel uncomfortable. Su Qingyin looked at Song Yinshu questioningly. This was the first time the two of them had met in private. Haven't you seen today's news? Song Yinshu handed Su Qingyin a copy of the news that she had already saved. Su Qingyin looked suspiciously at Song Yinshu's phone. It didn't take long before she found the main point. That's impossible. I just saw Jingxian a moment ago. Nothing is impossible. After all, I've only just met him. Before you arrived, I was by his side the entire time. Song Yinshu smiled. He indeed just came out of surgery and his injuries are quite serious. But why? This is the reason why I want to see you. Song Yinshu took back her phone with a serious expression on her face. But there was also a sense of helplessness and disdain. Jingxian and I have reconciled. Before that, he used you so many times. I'm truly sorry. This time, he got hurt because of me. It made us see each other's hearts clearly. We love each other. So, can you please stop pestering him in the future? I don't believe a single word that comes out of your mouth, Su Qingyin replied straightforwardly. I am going to question him. Go ahead. Since it's coming from his own mouth, it might be easier for you to accept. Song Yinshu smiled as she gestured for Tongning to leave. Su Qingyin turned to leave angrily. But, at this time, Song Yinshu suddenly stretched out her hand and held her back. I was just joking. What? Su Qingyin was a little annoyed by Song Yinshu. I told you I was joking. As you know, I'm already engaged, so I can't turn back. Lu Che could tell that something wasn't right as he furrowed his brows. Did Song Yinshu tell you this? Uh-huh. You believed her just like that? Otherwise, why would he get hurt? But, it doesn't matter. I hit Song Yinshu. From now on, I will take care of Jingxian. After all, he has helped me so many times. Lu Che held his forehead with a helpless expression. It wasn't easy for Tang Jingxian to save the damsel in distress, yet he ended up being misunderstood by her. Forget it. He was going to explain himself when he woke up. Miss Su, there are a few things that I think I should make clear to you. After all, I also see Jingxian as my family. As you can see, he has suffered a lot of setbacks in his relationships. So, I don't want to see another woman flirting with him while hiding another man in her heart. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.